I took a picture of the final divorce papers and sent it to my friends. Bill did the same. I got back 5 thumbs-up emojis and one question. What are you doing this weekend? Not much. Why? Are you coming to visit, old friend? If you want me to, do you? I guess so, unless you think I faked the papers. I was trying to be playful, even if it was a bit annoying. There wasn't anything I would rather do, but she had stopped talking to me for months. They all did, except for Amy. See you Friday around noon at your trailer, if that works. Sure. Bring a swimwear outfit, some nice dresses, and boots and jeans for riding horses. If you're staying longer, bring more. Do I get a hint about what we're doing? Sure, we've been waiting 15 years to do it. Sigh, anything else? Maybe, but I can help you pick out proper clothes if we need to. Bill sent his picture and got 5 thumbs up plus a question from Trisha. Can I come up? I know I haven't replied to your messages, but I really liked my last visit. We agreed to wait for the official divorce paperwork, and I didn't want to break that promise. He replied with a thumbs up and asked when. Friday at noon is okay? I can ride with Gina. Another thumbs up, and we left the cafe in Oklahoma City, feeling satisfied. My lawyer had already settled things with Rita, and Bill's lawyer did the same with Claudia, thanks to some strong legal support. On our side, we had the papers their lawyers wrote. I had recordings, and they had a lot of empty talk that didn't hold up in court. Both judges gave them looks of disapproval after their presentations, and we came out looking good. I did give Rita $200,000 that she probably didn't deserve for the good times we had before things turned bad, and Bill left Claudia the house and her car. It wasn't out of kindness. It was because he didn't plan to return. All they had to do to benefit from our decisions was to sign a simple paper that finalized everything. We weren't being generous. We just wanted to be done with it and have no more trouble from them or their families. So here we are, driving south on the highway, going fast and trying not to get caught by other cars speeding by. After the excitement wore off, it got quiet in the car. I didn't cry like Bill did, but my eyes were a bit watery. We did the right thing even though they didn't, over and over. But a lot of our hopes and good times were left behind. When we took a turn to reach US 281, Bill asked if we could stop to eat. I hadn't realized I was hungry, but we enjoyed our chicken fried steaks. We were still a couple of hours from Chance, but I called Kay and Charlie to let them know they had 2 single guys coming back. There was no answer, so we left a message and got back on the road. 2 hours and 7 minutes later, we arrived at the 4-way stop where I first ate when I moved down here. I drove slowly around the square to see if there were any events this weekend. I noticed a local band would be playing Saturday night at the party area behind the craft beer place, winery, and distillery. That sounded good for Bill and me if the ladies were up for it. Friday morning, we took 2 of the horses out for a ride. Bill was still unsure about riding, but the horses were gentle and calm. They were between 7 and 14 years old. None bucked or tried to run off, so he was learning to be a horseman. Gina and Trisha arrived right at noon. After some awkward greetings, I took Gina bags to the RV. Bill took Trisha things to the trailer. I noticed Gina looked thinner than before. Hey, scrawny, you been dieting and working out, I asked. You look a bit skinny for you. The blush and smile told me she had. But she just told me to stop watching her. Those words were wasted, and she knew it. If you do not want me to watch, do not look so nice, I teased. That drew no reply at all. 15 years is too long. I walked straight to her and pulled her into my arms. We shared a deep kiss full of feeling. We held each other close and made love. She looked at me afterward and said, "Oh my God. I should have taken you away from her as soon as I grew up when you 2 were seniors." Gina smiled with great happiness. "That was the greatest moment of my life," she said. "That was only the beginning," gingerly I replied. "I have so much more to share with you. When you leave, if you do, both of our worlds will be different." She looked at me softly. "I remember there is a bed here," she said. "If we are going to continue this afternoon, I would like to be on a flat surface." I took her to the bed. We held each other close and reconnected after 15 long years apart. It felt wonderful to share that special time together again. We stayed lost in the moment for a while. Then someone knocked loudly on the door. I put on some shorts and answered it. Bill laughed when he saw me. Trisha asked if Gina was all right. I chuckled and told them to come inside. "I will get her," I said. Gina took a quick shower and got dressed. She came out looking fresh and happy. We all got ready to go swimming together in the daylight. She gave me a warm smile. We knew there would be more special time for us later. "I'm all set, look." Before I could stop her, she dashed back into the bathroom with a bunch of orange strings and locked the door. I put on my shortest swimsuit and a t-shirt, grabbed beach towels, and took them to my truck. "Are we riding together?" "Sure, why not?" Bill said. I checked to make sure we had 2 ground cloths and some blankets, then watched for our friends. They came down the stairs wearing their cover-ups, and Bill and I almost changed our minds about swimming when they giggled and put them on. "Not sure if putting those on helps," Bill warned. "Once you see what we just saw, you can't unsee it. If we didn't want to feel you two in the water, we'd carry you away right now." They laughed even more as we drove to the ranch and down to the swimming hole. On the way, Gina laughed when she noticed something from my swimsuit, and Tricia leaned in to see too, which only made them giggle more. When we reached the bank by the swimming hole, we laid out the ground cloths and covered them with blankets, then placed the coolers nearby. "Do we have anything to drink?" Gina asked. "Or any snacks?" Tricia added. "One cooler has water, soda, and beer. The other has snacks like dried meats, veggies, and sandwiches. What do you want?" Bill asked. They chose dried meats, veggies, and soda, while some bottled water went with us to the river. It was past 4, but the sun was still strong, so I asked if they'd like to soak up some rays while we ate. Gina made a cute face and replied, "Based on the look you gave me earlier, I think I might swim in my cover-up or maybe go back and grab some sweats. We're with guys now, and I'd like your best behavior if we swim." Then she winked. Bob and Tricia laughed until it hurt, and I did too. She stood there with her hands on her hips and a serious look, then laughed, took off her cover-up, and sat by the snacks. Eating with the ladies was distracting with some skin showing. Bill seemed to handle it better than I did, considering I had a crush on Gina for years. The swimming pool was just as distracting. Their movements in the water reminded me of something from a movie. We swam around, floated, and sat on the rocks, getting to know each other instead of just flirting. Yes, I had known Gina for 20 years, but we hadn't been in touch for 8, so this was the first time seeing her as an adult. I asked about her ex, and Tricia jumped in with a rant while Gina looked down. "She married a jerk," Tricia said. "Guys like him are why I'm still single." He was sweet and loving until the wedding. When they talked about starting a family, he freaked out. "Not until we're older," he said. But then, when he was caught cheating, it turned out he had a lot of secrets. Gina later discovered at least 6 other women involved and possibly even more. Most were married, and when she mentioned them during the divorce, everything fell apart for him. She decided to leave her job, even though her principal and athletics director asked her to stay. She moved to College Station and quickly found a new job. "Last time you teased me for being interested in someone just for their looks. Let me guess, tall, blonde, and fit?" I asked. "He's more of a brownish blonde, but yeah, I guess I'm not so smart either," she said, looking a bit down. "And he changed his mind about wanting kids after we got married. Sounds familiar, huh? Maybe I'm not the only one making mistakes. Keep it up and I'll end up at Kay's for the night," she said playfully. I then scooped her up and playfully tossed her into the water. We both laughed and I ran to a spot between the shallow and deep parts of the pool. The water was clear and deep, so I felt safe. I grabbed the swing's rope and called out, "Who's brave enough to swing into the pool?" Gina, who was nearby, looked at Tricia and then climbed up to join me. I saw her smile but didn't think much of it, nor did I notice that Tricia was close behind her. "So what's the challenge, Kirk? Best jump, least splash, or hardest trick?" I knew I might be in trouble, but replied, "All 3. Tricia took the rope, saying she would go first to show us how it's done. I warned her to be careful not to swing out too far. She smiled, stepped back, and made a beautiful leap into the water, making only a small splash. Gina grabbed the rope next and leaped in perfectly as well. No splash and great style. I wanted to impress them, so I decided to do a harder trick I had been practicing. I swung out, did a twist, and landed softly in the water. I felt pretty good about my jump. We couldn't agree on who won, so we turned to Bill. "No way. One of you is my date, the other is my boss. I can't choose. It's a tie." After some playful arguing, we put on our flip-flops and walked towards the pecan grove where the trees were thick, making it hard to walk through. On our way back, Tricia's stomach growled and she said, "I'm really hungry." We all laughed and hurried to the sandwiches we had prepared. They included ham, turkey, and cheese on Kay's homemade bread, with mayo, mustard, lettuce, tomatoes, and chips, plus homemade pickles on the side. Bill and I thought we had made too many, but they were gone quickly. For athletic girls, they had big appetites. As we approached the trailers, I asked, "So what are we doing tonight? Live music at the food court behind the brewery? Or should we take it easy and go tomorrow?" Gina quickly suggested, "Let's dance." But the rest of us wanted to relax, so she playfully gave in with a smile. I noticed she had been sitting close to me and was playfully resting her hand on my thigh. Gina was tall, around 59 or 510, and strong. As we joked and talked, we enjoyed the evening ahead. Her scent was soft and sweet like a spring flower, and her taste was light and fresh. With her slim waist, nice shape, and pretty features, I couldn't understand why Lance would ever look elsewhere. I thought I should ask him about it someday. Either he had found someone truly special, or he needed a talking to for being with someone as great as her. After another delicious meal and cozy time together, we relaxed. She then suggested trying something new, but I knew we could take our time with that. She was amazing. When we woke up an hour later, I was content to stay close and enjoy simply looking into her eyes as she appreciated our moments together. It was clear she felt good, and it was nice to feel her excitement. We cuddled happily, knowing what might come next. Around midnight, I gently explored our connection deeper, and after some playful moments, we shared a special experience together, something I didn't think was possible for us. She mentioned afterwards in the shower that she wanted to try again, but said we should wait a day or two. I agreed, thinking about our future times together. The next morning, we enjoyed a relaxing morning routine. After eating breakfast, we were ready for our horseback ride. I joked with my friend about the beautiful area we would explore. They looked great in their outfits, and when we arrived, they wanted to check out the house before riding. I reminded them it could get really hot, and we might enjoy drinks while touring the buildings first. They were reluctant, but eventually agreed. We saddled up and adjusted the stirrups for comfort. My friend Bill had quickly improved his riding skills, while Tricia was an expert and Gina was right there with him. We took it easy, walking through the front pasture, where I showed them my garden and various patches of crops. The trees grew thicker in the back pasture, so we stayed on the wider paths but still spotted some wildlife, like quail, which were not very common. As the sun blazed down, we drank plenty of water from our cool containers. Once we reached the far corner, we opened a gate and soon found ourselves back at the ranch, enjoying a fulfilling day together. We got drinks and started the tour of the buildings. Bill told everyone he wasn't finished with the house, but they were really impressed with how it looked and his work inside. It was coming together nicely, and I was eager to move in my updated furniture. Bill kept saying soon, but I knew that perfectionists have their own idea of time. He might have to move a bit faster for me. The barn amazed them, as did the beautiful furniture stored in the back. "Oh wow, can't you just picture this in the living room?" Tricia asked Gina, who was looking at a handmade bed meant for the master suite. "What do you think about this bed?" she asked, and Tricia couldn't hide her excitement. After they were done checking out the antiques, I turned on some music and asked for a dance. For some reason, Gina often kept her distance during slow dances, but here in the barn, with just one other couple around, she finally relaxed. "Are you worried your sister will see us and get upset?" I joked. She realized how silly it was and eased up a bit. "I guess I am. I always wanted to be close to you like she and others were, but she would get mad if I even talked to you. Even when we weren't dating, that's crazy." "Yeah, I know, but maybe I shouldn't have let her control me like that." "Hey, I have an idea. Let's take a picture of us dancing and send it to her. Maybe with a little kiss." She seemed unsure, but Tricia was excited to direct us. "This is a video, so just dance and look at each other, then snuggle and then look again and kiss." We did what Tricia said, and I added my own touches, putting my hand on her back and then wrapping my arms around her. After she held onto my neck, I leaned in and kissed her. The kiss started slow, but then it sparked, and we really connected. After we pulled away, looking at each other, Tricia finished the video and said, "Wow, that was something. She's going to be shocked." I suggested, "Let's take a picture of us making a silly face." But Gina said no. That was probably the last time she said no that night. Tricia sent it from her phone with a funny gif. I couldn't wait to see what would happen next. I should have noticed Rita earlier, since Dana gave me advice about her before I even turned 19. Seeing her made me feel almost as good as the surprise from the divorce. Harry might end up feeling the effects of our fun, but honestly, I didn't care. She had been unfaithful to me before marrying him, so he could deal with it. Or maybe I should send him a thank you card, roses, and chocolates. Kay and Charlie asked us to join them at the food court, bandstand, and dance floor at 7 that evening, and we had a wonderful night. The only problem was Gina being a bit distant with me in public, especially when it came to showing affection, which she really needed to work on. I'm a naturally friendly guy. I love to dance closely, whisper sweet things, and steal kisses. Most women enjoy it, but Gina seemed shy around me. Kate noticed this, and when we danced, she acted relaxed, teased me, and flirted back. We didn't kiss, but she moved into my arms and danced closer than Gina. When Charlie asked Gina to dance, she seemed at ease. The same happened when Bill asked her, and even when one of Charlie's friends chatted with her. "It's you," Kate said. "She's really into you but seems afraid to show it. I hope she's not like that when you're alone." "Not even a little bit," I told her. In fact, she is as fun as her lively personality shows. We have had this strange, teasing friendship for 15 years. It started when she was the little sister of the girl I dated in high school and during our first year of college. Now we get to spend time together with only one friend around, but she is back to teasing and keeping some distance. What do you suppose is going on, I asked. I do not know, but pick a slow song, take her to the floor and hold her close. Talk to her and see what happens, Bill said. I did. After she got over the surprise, she relaxed in my arms. I whispered in her ear. She looked up at me and said, "You are right." From then on, we relaxed and enjoyed each other on the dance floor or at the table. I wanted to talk about it more, but not then. Maybe in the morning. We left at 11. We dodged deer on the road back. We dropped the others at their house. Then we went to the trailers. Gina watched them and asked, is she going to be his new person after the breakup? I hope not. She deserves a good man who will love and treasure her. I looked at her for a long moment and asked, so is that message for Bill or for me? She blushed and replied, both maybe. I do not know. I am so confused about you. Because why Ginny? Because I dated your sister a decade ago. Because I just got divorced. Talk to me about your worries, please. She ducked her head. So I walked her inside and closed the door. We had the place to ourselves. We stood facing each other, holding hands but not speaking for a moment. I do not know Danny, she said. For all those years you were someone I could not get close to. Then you and my sister broke up. She told us you had cheated on her and left for another girl. We believed her. She introduced a new man right away. Later we learned the truth. She admitted she had cheated on you many times. She said you were the perfect man, but she ruined it. That made me question why I believed her. I remembered how you always made me feel good about myself. I made a vow never to stay in a relationship like that. So of course I ended up in one anyway. But the second time I caught him, I divorced him. I had your example. So I said no over and over again. Even now, he calls and cries and promises, but I know better. So, Ginny, am I just a temporary guy? It sounds like you have some unfinished business and are a bit hesitant about getting serious again. Maybe. I'll need to think about it. How about we go to bed, relax, and talk about the heavy stuff tomorrow? Not while you're dressed. I only want people without clothes in my bed. I had boots, socks, jeans, underwear, and a shirt to take off, while she had a dress and sandals, so she made it to the bedroom first. But I won our playful contest before she ended it by surprising me in a way I didn't expect. The next morning, we enjoyed breakfast at Horister's, attended services at the country chapel, and then went for a ride to a new restaurant that everyone was talking about. On the way back, Charlie drove while I sat in the back row with my date, who was more comfortable with public displays of affection today. I was enjoying the lovely scenery in the bright daylight, admiring the freckles on her legs, shoulders, and face. She had sandy blonde hair and a light complexion, which made everything look good. Trisha told Bill they needed some time apart to figure things out, as she didn't want to be a backup option. Gina asked me to think about our conversation from last night and said she would reach out when she was ready, so I shouldn't call her. Bill and I chatted afterward and agreed. Women can be hard to understand, and we might never get it. That night, I pondered our situation and felt I had experienced enough ups and downs for one lifetime. Monday arrived, and we talked about what Bill needed to do to get the house ready to move in by next week. He didn't like being rushed, but it looked fine to me, and I was worried he was starting to enjoy his project a bit too much. We weren't selling all the unique wooden features. We planned to use them because the owner thought they looked great. Carrie agreed with me, and after checking the house, Kay asked why I wasn't moving in this week since it looked ready. Bill sighed and said the house would be ready by Wednesday, as long as he could save some areas that still needed work. He and Carrie got to work while I found 3 guys willing to carefully move items from the barn to the house and help with the new furniture and tech. I realized that the closets from earlier times didn't fit today's need for clothing and shoes. I had a couple of armoires for my room, but the other bedrooms would need them too if anyone moved in. It was time to find the things we needed before we had to pay a lot for them later. I sent Kay and Carrie off in my pickup with a shopping list and my credit card, which made Charlie look at me in disbelief. He refused to come along to keep an eye on the expenses. Once I had help arranged, I joined Charlie to assist Bill, and by 5:30 we had accomplished a lot. We were sitting under a big oak tree, enjoying a drink and wondering where the girls were when they arrived, practically sliding to a stop. My pickup bed seemed oddly empty despite having my credit card and them appearing so happy and animated. Kay hesitated for a moment, then Carrie jumped in. "You won't believe what happened, Danny. It was incredible." We took a shortcut to the Fredericksburg Highway and came across a man putting up a hand-painted sign on the fence. It said, "Estate Sale Saturday," so Kay stopped to ask if he would let us look around. She told him we were buying antique furniture for the restored Horister homestead nearby. He smiled and said, "Why not? The new owners want everything sold, so you might save me some effort." We followed him to the house, which definitely needed some work. But it had a good roof, the floors were solid, and the furniture was in good shape, Kay added. Carrie excitedly continued. They had armoires in both bedrooms and several nice tables and chairs that we think might match yours. They're handcrafted like yours and the same color. There was an old radio that we had never seen before, sitting on a beautiful round table, and a lovely love seat you'd have to see to believe. We have the keys, and we want you all to come with us and bring the trailer. All we need to do is make a list of what you take and pay the real estate agent tomorrow. It's a little late, isn't it? I asked, unsure. They assured me it was close, and we needed to see it today before someone else bought it all, so we all loaded into my truck and drove over. There was a for sale sign next to the estate sale sign on the fence, and the house looked worn down. It seemed a bit tilted, indicating some foundation issues. Charlie entertained Bill with stories of his friends who used to live there as they walked around, admiring the solid construction of the house. I fell in love with the carved love seat and the matching table and chairs. The armoires would need some work from Bill, but they would look good after he was done. Walking around inside the house, especially on the second floor, felt a bit unsettling because of the lean, but the floors were steady. Charlie and Bill were looking at the walls and floors, discussing how well built the house was and the quality of the wood used to build it. I heard Bill making a phone call from outside, but thought little of it. When I called for them to come help me move some things to the trailer, I noticed there was a lot of nice furniture, kitchen items, and other goods in the house, all going to the new buyer. Someone would get a good deal if the price for the land and structure was right. Bill and Charlie sat in the back seat, Carrie, and I sat in the front. The back seat felt quieter while my two friends chatted away. I couldn't help but notice their bare legs in the warm weather, just as I couldn't help watching them move around the old house. Gina's gone one day, and here I was, drawn to my friend's wife and a young employee. I thought about driving down the road to see her, but she had said not to contact her, that she would call me when she could. My phone rang, and I was surprised to have a couple of bars of service, so I answered, hoping to hear over the lively conversation in the truck. "Hello. Hi, Danny, this is Danielle. Got time to talk?" "I have time. I may not have good service, so if we get cut off, can I call you back?" "Yes, please do. So how are things?" "Want the honest answer?" "Of course. Chase and I are feeling pretty lonely. You know, the kind of lonely where you wish for someone to talk to and just be there with you. Do you know anyone who might want to visit?" She started laughing when I mentioned Chase and continued to laugh as I made my invitation. It took her a moment to catch her breath and respond. "You talk a big game, Daniel Kirk, but how could anyone turn down an offer like that? Just to be clear, I'll be nice to the dog, but not to you. Come on down and let me show you some fun, Buttercup." "Are you coming tonight?" "Haha, definitely not tonight. How about tomorrow around noon?" "If that's all you can do, that's fine. We'll probably be at the old place, but I can send you a message around 11 if we're there. Tomorrow is moving day, and the day after my first group of cattle arrives, so wear your jeans, chaps, jacket, and boots. And don't forget your hat. The sun can be really hot. Oh, and bring some work gloves in case you get here in time to help Chase and me settle in." "Ha, I think I'll wait until the hard work is over and then we can celebrate." "Oh, sugar, we celebrate every day after work. Cold drinks, sunshine, and cool water. It's almost perfect. And no swimsuits that cover too little," she teased. "That's right, or even less. We're pretty relaxed out here." "Well, in that case, I'll see you when I see you. Bye." Wait. But the call ended. I noticed everyone was staring at me. There was complete silence. "What?" I asked. Kay replied, "That was the worst attempt at flirting I've ever heard and the worst invitation. I bet she hung up and called someone else for a date." "I'd wager on that. How much?" "Let's skip the money. The loser has to do what the winner says for a day." "You mean you'll be doing what I want and it won't be fun wearing a costume?" "Okay, the loser wears a costume and does what the winner wants for a day and night." Charlie laughed but added, "Hey, I think it's time to back out of that bet. It's the all-night part that worries me." "He's going to lose. No girl would fall for that line. Come help me move and then work with cattle and then you can swim with a bunch of guys." "Yeah, that'll work." To be fair, I didn't say anything about that. But since you know Danielle, I guess that could be a possibility. Anyway, are you really sure you want to bet on whether she'll be here by noon tomorrow, with the loser having to dress up and serve the winner for a whole day? Now that it was time to decide, she was hesitant. I could see she wasn't sure. Danielle had liked him before he helped her and even more after. Maybe his words would work after all. Put up or shut up, I challenged with a grin, but I promise you'll enjoy the nighttime tasks. I held out my hand to seal the bet. She raised hers but hesitated. Charlie and Carrie seemed to warn her, but that may have pushed her to shake my hand defiantly. You're going to regret this, she assured herself. I smiled and said, you're mistaken. She'll be here tomorrow, and not long after there will be a call from Rebecca. Amy was first, Gina second, and now Danny. They're trying to see if I'm still tied up with Rita. What do you mean? Kay asked, a bit shaky. These are mature, professional women. They have their own rules and they usually stick to them. Well, maybe not Trisha as much. I think she jumped in right away and skipped the waiting rule that Amy followed with me once they had all the facts. I think Wanda and the others might want to try their luck with Bill too, but not while Trisha has such a strong interest in him. She won't wait long to reach out to him. She might even bring Danny along. But Gina will hold off until I've been with all four of the ones who like me. After that, she or one of the others might come back, as long as they feel confident they aren't just a rebound. That's when I need to be careful, or I could end up with another wife. High hopes, huh? Kay asked, sounding a bit defensive. I looked at her until she blushed and said, after your night with me, you'll get it. Charlie and Bill burst out laughing, while Carrie made things more awkward by saying things like, wow, you're in for a wild night. Kay quickly replied, that's nonsense. He and Charlie are too close for anything like that. Hey, Charlie, want to join me for some fun? Let's see what Kay will do for me compared to what she might do for you, I suggested. Charlie jumped right in. Thanks for the invite. I've always wondered how much she can handle in one night, and I've got plenty of ideas for things she'd be too shy to try if she were your partner. Kay turned bright red, but I could tell she was still thrilled deep down. Now I just needed to decide what we could actually do. I talked to Charlie. I bet he has some thoughts we'd all find enjoyable. Our work was coming together, and just as we started on the barn, a bright red SUV pulled up in front of the house. I figured it was Danny, and sure enough, I saw her jump out all set to help, wearing clothes good for the heat, short shorts and a light top. Chase was excited to see her, but Danny Jr. was even more thrilled. As soon as I got a chance, I hugged her tightly before letting her greet everyone else. Danny stood out in any crowd, comfortable in her own skin, which made Carrie and Kay a bit uneasy since Chase, who usually followed one of them, was focused on Danny today. Chase is unpredictable. One moment he's into one girl, the next he's hanging out with the guys. But today was all about Danny, his first love in town. She worked hard, and we finished earlier than expected. I then invited everyone to join us for barbecue at Cooper's, which has a relaxed dress code. For some of us, that was great since we were a bit dirty from working. For others, it helped since they weren't dressed up. The crew headed home or off to their next thing. We offered to take Carrie back, but she opted for cold drinks, sunbathing, and a swim instead. Kay stopped by her house for her swimsuit, and we were surprised when she took off her cover-up. She looked fantastic. Carrie was 22 and Danny was 25. Kay looked like a sister to them. We went sunbathing, or at least the three girls did. The Indian guy laughed at the idea of getting a tan, and Charlie lasted just 5 minutes before he joined Bill and Chase in the shade. I offered to put sunscreen on the girls, but they wanted to help each other instead. I hadn't been able to sunbathe comfortably due to some awkwardness in my shorts, but my back was getting too hot. So I wrapped a towel around my waist and hurried to the shade with the other guys. They laughed at me because the towel didn't really cover much. I tried to cool down with a cup of ice water from the cooler, but it hardly worked. Even Bill and Charlie were chuckling when I noticed they had their towels tightly around them, too. I tried the same, and it helped a bit, but I really needed to cool off more. After a while, they decided they had enough sun, put on their cover-ups, and insisted we go swimming. Even with the hot surface of the truck, Chase jumped in the back, and the girls joined him, while Charlie and Bill helped me drive. There was a shady parking space, although it was a bit close to the edge, so I parked there and we unloaded. Bill and Charlie grabbed the cooler, and I helped the girls with their tubes. We weren't planning on floating downriver. We just wanted to relax in the shade and chat. However, the Llano River had other plans. Even though we hadn't had any rain, it seemed Rock Springs had, and the river's current pulled us downstream. The girls felt it first, and Kay helped the others get out safely. We put the tubes back in the truck and enjoyed swimming in the pools and eddies. It was fun and safe there, but the strong current made us think about tubing tomorrow. The girls would prepare a picnic, and the guys would bring a cooler full of drinks, parking one truck at the exit point. Charlie had special tubes for the cooler, one for food and another for drinks. We decided to set up camp at the exit, so I'd park my truck there. There was a grassy spot beside the James River where we could eat and relax. The trip would take about 4 hours, which allowed us time to tend to the cattle, give them water, and feed them before we left for the tubing adventure. We might need a fire for light if we stayed too long, but that would be fine. You just step back from the heat. I'd love to say that Danielle was everything she seemed, but she was even more than that. I worried I wouldn't be enough even doing my best, but she enjoyed our time together and then curled up next to me and fell asleep. That was perfect timing because I was also quite tired. She was simply captivating to me in every way, through touch, smell, taste, or sound. I was completely enchanted. And that was before I even looked at her. Every part of her was lovely. Then she would smile, and her giggles would catch my attention again, leaving me mesmerized. Honestly, if she had been someone else at her best, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. But Danny had a way of drawing me in, and for that, I was grateful when she finally fell asleep since I was reaching my limit too. I tried to ignore the hurt from Rita's cheating and unkind behavior, but it stung deep down. I managed to hide it well. However, when I woke up with someone special in my arms, I couldn't even recall if I had ever been with someone named Rita. That felt good, but nothing compared to sharing a warm moment with someone who was smaller than me, feeling close together at dawn. I kissed her neck gently, showing affection, as she responded with excitement. It was clear we were both enjoying the moment. It was even better when she turned to me, kissed me sweetly, and told me that the time we spent together was amazing. After that, she rested her head on my chest and fell asleep quickly. I stayed awake for a little while, appreciating her presence and trying to understand what I was feeling inside before cuddling closer and drifting off to sleep. I had nearly forgotten that she was from La Grange, a quiet town surrounded by farms. When she joined me for a cattle drive, she looked the part, dressed in cowboy boots and a straw hat. At the ranch, she saddled her horse gracefully and had a rope coiled on her saddle horn. She knew what to do when it was time to work with the cattle. The rancher I got the herd from walked with me as we examined each animal before completing the purchase agreement. She also looked over the herd and said it was a good group. Bob, the rancher, quietly told me that she was the best cowhand he had ever seen and joked that he would give me his prized bull for a date with her. I reminded him that Carol Ann might not agree with that idea, but I would consider asking Danny if I could also get a date with Carol Ann. We all shared a laugh, and it was clear that Carol Ann was aware we were talking about her. As Bob left, Danny and I mounted our horses and started moving the cattle toward a freshwater pond that I had built next to a well. The pond had areas both inside and outside the pen, and the feed troughs were all inside to prepare the cows for being penned when we needed to care for them. They were calm and followed directions, as if they had done this many times before. Thirsty, they quickly found the water and then the feed. I took photos of each cow from Horseback, including shots of their ear tags. Once they finished the feed, the rich grasses outside looked far more appealing, so they wandered away to graze. "It's been a long time since I worked with cattle alongside my grandfather," Danny mentioned with a hint of nostalgia. "In high school, I got caught up in sports and activities and I kind of let him down. I feel bad about that now." "Is he still around?" I asked. "Yes, thankfully, and he still runs his ranch. I guess I have a chance to make it up to him a little." I usually don't do much on weekends, and during the summer weekdays I read, surf the internet, sunbathe, and swim at my apartment. I could easily visit my parents and grandparents more often. I have good friends who still live there too. I have so many memories there, both good and not so good, and everyone wants to spend time with me when I visit. That's why I keep putting it off," I said. "Well, honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing you more often." "Ready to head back home?" she sighed, looking at me with a smile that said she was interested. "Let's race. Loser has to do something silly." She took off first, but I caught up to her before we got back. I let her win because I didn't mind losing. We checked the hot water and plumbing first, dried ourselves off, and then looked at the bed. She pulled back the top sheet and summer blanket, lying down with her arms above her head. I admired her for a moment before she noticed me staring and became shy. She put her feet on the bed and I sat down beside her. "You're going to regret this," I teased, and she laughed. We spent time together, lost in our own world, until she playfully called for a turn. I playfully ignored her request and instead changed positions, holding her close. We both enjoyed the moment, letting everything else fade away. Later, Kay had locked Chase in her house because she was worried about him going tubing with us. The three girls were daring again, and Charlie asked, "Where do you find those bikinis?" "I can't think of a better way to spend my money, but where do you get them?" "Ever heard of the internet? That's where all the little packages come from," I replied. He laughed and told her to buy as many as she wanted, along with some cute underthings too. They were busy planning their day while I drove my truck down to the river and parked by the island. Charlie picked me up and was eager to talk about how excited he was for the upcoming event. He had lots of plans, some of which were a bit much for me, but I figured it was his choice. Just before we arrived, he got serious for a moment. "Buddy, be careful with this one. The others were after different things, but this one seems special. She might lead you somewhere you'll want to stay forever. Trust me, I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but you need to make sure you're ready." I can see excitement in her eyes. "And besides Rebecca, there's another girl who will come home for Christmas and might catch your attention. Keep your options open or make a quick choice after Rebecca. To me, she's the best of the bunch, but the girl in Washington is pretty special too." I could have thought more about Charlie's advice, but we were there to have fun tubing, and tubing is easygoing. The water was just right, so we got started, lined up the group, and opened our first drinks just before 5 o'clock. It was tough to stay in pairs, so we floated along, chatting with whoever came close as we drifted in the current. Kay was playful, saying I cheated, but I just winked at her until she blushed. I jokingly told her that she'd enjoy being my helper for a day so much that she'd want to do it again. "Just ask Danny," I said with another wink. Her face turned a deep shade of red, and I found it charming. Carrie was lively and cheeky, which was different for her when she was with me. She even pretended to have a little wardrobe mishap, giving me a glimpse of her. I complimented her on how lovely she looked. The attention caused a guy with binoculars to nearly lose his balance, and some kayakers hurriedly left the river, regretting it as they saw us. We passed by a group having a picnic and some fishermen, with the men getting loud praises too, but not as loud as the cheers for the three girls in tiny bikinis. We all enjoyed the trip, even though Danny and I didn't get much time together. We felt a little sad when we saw my truck on the island ahead. I noticed the grass started where the bushes stopped. It led up to a building that looked like an ice house, with large doors and a patio surrounded by trees. While we loaded our tubes into the truck, Bill asked about the crowd near the building. Charlie said it was the River Ice House and that the crowd would keep growing because they served smash burgers that evening. Everyone thought a burger and beer sounded like a great dinner, so the women threw on cover-ups and we put on our shirts. I drove to the road across the island, over the bridge, down a short dirt road, and parked near the trees. Kay led us to the entrance while chatting excitedly, and we made it to the bar to order food. Bill and I chose double meat burgers with fries, while the others got singles with fries, and we all had a beer. Charlie was still outside talking with friends, but saved us a table in the shade with his hat. It was warm, but in the shade with a nice breeze, it felt comfortable. Everyone knew each other, so the place was full of locals, which was different from the cafes in town where you often saw tourists. Word was getting out about Chance, and people were making plans to visit and even stay. But on the river, it was mostly locals, ranchers and business owners, here for the burgers, the beer, and the good company. While Bill and I weren't exactly regulars, we were fixing up the old Horister homestead, so we fit in just fine. Kay, Charlie, and Carrie were from the area, and Danny was very attractive, which helped her fit in easily. Many people changed their minds about Kay that night because her outfit didn't hide much, and men kept bumping into furniture while watching her. Our table had 6 seats full, but more people came over to chat with Kay and Charlie. Before long, we had to turn sideways just to talk to those who recognized us, but we hadn't met. One popular question was about the progress on the old Horister place. More chairs came up, and soon, there were discussions about a housewarming party so everyone could see the renovations and share old memories. Carrie was definitely our biggest cheerleader, spreading the news about our updates, and she wasn't shy about embellishing stories. I worried that our actual work might not measure up to her hype. Then she and Kay promised everyone that we would have not only an open house, but also a barn dance, like in the past when raising a barn was a community effort followed by a celebration. We had our phones safely stored in a waterproof bag tied to Bill's waist, but no one used them on the river because of the setting or simply because things were lively around us. I was on my way back from getting more drinks when Bill stopped me. He had his phone out and looked serious. "I got a call from my brother. There's a rumor that our dad hired some tough guys to come here and cause trouble for us. Have you checked your insurance plans lately? Insurance? I hadn't thought about that. Maybe my lawyer did. I need to sort mine out, and you should too. I really don't want Claudia to gain from something bad happening to me. It was getting late, but my lawyer often worked late hours. He had a good reputation for it, which contributed to his divorce. I found a spot where I had a decent phone signal near my truck and called him. I hadn't taken care of the insurance thing as I should have, but I left him a message about what I wanted for my policies. After that, I went back to join the group. We spent time talking and having fun, even though Bill and I had some worries on our minds. We should have guessed our father wouldn't let us go without a fight. A hit crew? It made sense. He had a way of dealing with anyone who opposed him. Thankfully, we had some experience with that kind of trouble, even if we were less prepared than before. Bill and I realized we needed to figure out what was happening and where any possible threats were. If they planned to cause us harm, it was something we would stand up to, especially if they were the same people we had faced in the past. But if their plan was more serious, we knew we had to be careful. I rejoined the larger group, allowing my mind to take in everything happening around me, gather needed details, and start forming plans. I had made many new friends, and the choice by others to have an open house was now set. I watched Danny interact with everyone. Even in her cover-up and bikini with her hair tied back messily, she seemed calm and collected. I could say the same for Kay and Carrie. The way people dress for different occasions can really differ. Sometimes you get dressed up, sometimes you come in from a long day, and sometimes you just enjoy some time by the river. Regardless of their outfits, all three women seemed at ease and comfortable, enjoying the company of everyone around them. "Hey, Bill, anything else?" I asked when I saw him coming out of the restroom. "We can relax for a bit. My contact says the so-called hit squad is busy laughing and bragging about what they'd like to do to us. But they need better gear and aren't sure how to get it," he replied. "Did Daddy Warbucks hire them but forget to equip them? That doesn't sound like him. Think they might be a distraction while the real threat is nearby? No way to tell, but I doubt they'd use snipers. Daddy would want them to make it clear who they are." We walked a bit when a couple of friendly women approached us. They introduced themselves as divorcees and friends of the Horister grandchildren. They asked for an invite to the open house. After sizing them up and thinking they seemed good enough, I promised to include them but said I didn't have their contact details. They typed their information into my phone and then headed back, letting Bill and me return to our table. As I took my seat, Danny leaned over and whispered, "Not your type. You should aim higher." I just met them. They wanted an invite to the open house, so I took their numbers for the message about the date and time. True, they aren't really in your league, but who is? They hold up pretty well against the crowd. Are they as good as Rebecca? She'll be our representative next week, which I see you already figured out. Are you really going to make Kay wear a costume for a day? She made a bet with me. I tried to talk her out of it twice, and Carrie tried 3 times, but I think she's actually looking forward to it. Charlie seems to be into it as well. Can you imagine her in that costume, doing whatever I ask? Wow, Danny playfully hit me, laughing. I'd like to see that and Charlie's reaction. Do you think he wants to watch? And I'm sure that excites her too. Want someone to join us tonight? Maybe Kay and Charlie. The playful jab was harder this time, but the giggle made it lighter. Wow, you're outrageous. Oh, so you girls are sharing stories about our time together? I bet there are some interesting details. No stories yet, but yes, you do get grades. So far, you're earning top marks, but if you don't keep up the good work tonight, you might drop a bit. So I'm headed into the finals with an A. I'm feeling confident and ready. When can we get started, teach? As soon as the older folks say, I guess. Then how about we go out to my truck and relive high school? You wouldn't like being in the truck with high school me, but I wouldn't mind learning what I missed. After thinking it over, we decided I would pull my shorts down while Danny took off her bikini but left her cover-up on. She sat on my lap. I couldn't tell whether she was looking out the window because she was excited or just really wanted to be close. But with my hands on her waist and kissing her, she seemed really happy. The moment felt amazing, and every time she reacted, it surprised me. When I mentioned I was close to finishing, she moved off my lap and knelt down, ready to show me something new. She was really good at it, and when she was done, she smiled and said, "We're a good match and you taste nice." Not that I mind, but what was that about? I didn't want everyone noticing the mess on my legs. Can you grab a towel? While she was drying off and putting her bikini bottoms back on, her top got lost. After looking around, she looked at me and asked, "Okay, where did you hide it? Do you want your girlfriend to show off to your friends?" Well, when you put it that way, I said, pulling the bikini from my shorts. But admit it, you enjoy being seen. You looked out the window every few minutes. Don't say you were worried about being caught because you seemed more excited. She giggled and looked down. In high school, I almost gave in once at a party. I was more excited about possibly getting caught than what was happening. Maybe you have a point about me liking attention, she replied with a cute laugh. I knew from the moment I saw you petting that dog in that short skirt that you liked being noticed. What you did then, and what you should do now, is enjoy yourself. Your cover-up reaches below, so it's not too revealing even if you lean over. She laughed and said, Right, in front of people I want to impress. I think not. I've already gone further than I would if Carrie and Kay weren't also wearing short cover-ups. You may think I enjoy attention, but I choose my audience, and this isn't it. She got dressed without taking off her cover-up, and I pulled my shorts up. She was a quirky and attractive girl, full of charm. She was smart, had a great sense of humor, and was adventurous. She was also very intelligent, level-headed, and good at solving problems. To me, she was perfect, shapely, and strong. We fit together beautifully. In terms of thinking, feeling, and physical skills, she was everything I wanted, maybe even too close to my ideal. I know I need time to deal with the fallout from my past marriage, but if Danny wanted to stay, I wouldn't turn her down. A few months together to sort things out, she could work nearby as a teacher and coach. By this time next year, we could have plans made, or maybe not. Should I ask her to cancel her next visit with the queen bee? Would she listen if I brought up the idea of more than friendship? Or am I not the one to make that choice? Maybe I shouldn't. Just last week, I had strong feelings for Gina, and now I'm smitten with Danny. Should I share my feelings and hope she would spend part of her summer with me, or wait to see what happens after Rebecca's visit? Right now, Danny is my top choice, Gina is second, and there's another option I shouldn't dwell on but have to recognize. The truth is, I have no idea how any of them feel about me, and that matters a lot too. You can care deeply for someone, but if they don't feel the same or share your values, it can lead to a big mess. I want to avoid that at all costs since it's hard to recover from two broken connections. I don't think these women are like Rita, but then again, I missed the signs with Rita, so I have doubts about my ability to judge character. If you add Dana to the mix, I really feel confused. I opened the windows of my truck to air it out before heading back to the fun of drinks and dancing. The dance floor was busy, the music was lively, and we joined in, enjoying the energy of the crowd. The area was full and a bit chaotic due to all the drinks, but we all stayed safe except for a few minor bumps and scrapes from dancing too close. I wasn't drunk, and I didn't think Danny was either, but we were feeling good and just enjoying the moment. Eventually, the energy of the crowd started to fade, so I suggested it was time to head home. Everyone except one friend was ready, and after a word from his wife, he was on board too, so we drove home together. I didn't want Danny to leave the next day, and I told her that. I gave her many reasons to stay, but she decided to go. I thought about it for hours after she left and ended up having a few drinks just like everyone else had the night before. You shouldn't feel sad about someone you hardly know, but it can happen, and it did. At least she didn't say, "Don't call me, I'll call you," like Gina did. I spent the whole week preparing for the open house and barn dance next week, which I didn't want to do without someone by my side. I seriously considered saying no to Rebecca if she called. If she did call. I felt a bit tired of being taken advantage of, although the time spent was enjoyable, so I guess I was just tired of the situation. She needed to be clear about what was happening, or I would have to cut ties with all of them. By the time she called on Wednesday afternoon, I was feeling frustrated and didn't hold back my feelings. "Hello, Danny. This is Rebecca from College Station." "Hi, Rebecca. How can I help you?" "I'm hoping to get an invitation to visit you and see your new place this weekend or next. My last landlords and neighbors have convinced me to hold an open house weekend after next, so I'm busy every day until then. You can come this weekend and help out if you'd like, but the best treat I can offer is a swim in the river in the evenings and good meals from Kay or maybe in town." "That sounds hard to refuse. Is Friday good for you?" "Any day works, but when are you going back?" These quick Friday-Sunday visits are becoming old. Also, I need someone to help host the open house. You can send whoever you want, but they need to call me about what to wear, which is unusual but fitting. Danny told me you were already tired of our silly little game, which you showed when she left, but I'm leaving on Sunday too. I promise this will be the last time, and I will make sure you have one or more appropriately dressed hosts for your open house. The more, the better, and Bill needs one too if she's free. She's eager, but he needs to reach out to her. She's a little hurt that he hasn't. Well, Rebecca, your don't call me, I'll call you approach makes this hard, don't you think? Maybe she should be the one to call him. You're right, even if Trisha didn't say it exactly like that, I'll talk to her this week. A long sigh followed. Okay, when should I expect you? Early enough Friday to help, and I'll be around Saturday and Sunday too if you need it. I'll see you when I see you then. Have a safe trip. Goodbye. Another sigh escaped. I guess I showed my frustration, didn't I, Chase? But she needed to know I figured this out long ago, and I'm tired of it. I'm not on some reality show, and I don't like being treated like I am. On the other hand, my time with Amy, Gina, or Danny was lovely, and I wouldn't have had that without their friendship. Amazingly, the most attractive of them all is coming next. Maybe I just need to be more open-minded. With that thought, Chase and I walked into the kitchen. I had some coffee while he drank water, and then I made enough bacon, eggs, and biscuits for both of us. Chase's biscuit didn't come with any of the homemade jelly Carol Ann brought over a couple of weeks after I bought cattle from them. She wanted a tour of the house in exchange, but seemed a little disappointed. You don't look impressed, Carol Ann, I told her. No, I'm very impressed with your work. I just didn't know others would be here. I was hoping for a private tour. The honest look she gave me was mixed with a playful smirk, and I understood the hint. I knew I should tell her I wasn't interested in married women, but I didn't want to offend a neighbor or lose the supply of homemade jelly. And she was attractive, like a small-town version of a famous actress. It was better to be friendly than to push her away. I was sticking to my rules, but she was nice to look at. After breakfast, we tackled the bushes behind the barn. I cleared the area next to the building, then treated it with diesel and herbicide. The rest I shredded and then dug up with a tool attached to the used skid steer I had. I sprayed the remaining roots so I wouldn't have more than I started with. I planned to level the land tomorrow after the herbicide soaked in, but at that moment, my tractor and I were needed at the ranch entrance. The workers were putting up a nice gate with DKM arched on top. I thought it was a bit over the top, but everyone else loved it, so here we were. Once it was up, I had to admit they were right. It was a nice balance between flashy and plain. One more task done in preparation for the big event. I worked on trimming trees and bushes around the house and barn. I set the irrigation system to water every 2 days, so the grass would stay green in the heat. I also cleared a path to the river just in case. Many people had memories of swimming there, and some might want to visit. The one thing I stayed away from was the final touches on the house. I didn't want to offend Kay or Carrie, but Kay liked a cowboy style, and Carrie was still figuring things out. I needed someone with a good taste for this job, and I ended up getting Rebecca. I hoped her taste matched the nice background she came from. This was a modern homestead with updated electrical and plumbing, but it was missing the soft touches I saw in old photos. The front room and bedrooms needed warmth, while the kitchen and dining areas were a lost cause. The shiny appliances didn't feel much like an old homestead, but I liked having those comforts. The front room stretched across the house, except for the area on one end where my big TV was surrounded by comfortable furniture. I didn't watch much TV, only the morning and evening news, and sometimes the weather, if I wanted more details than my weather apps. Bill and Carrie were still restoring the woodwork in the house. Next week, he would move to the barn, and then I would lose his help. Our conversation went like this. Boss, remember that old house we visited to get some furniture? I nodded as he continued, excitement creeping into his voice. Charlie and I checked it out closely, and we think the structure is solid. I put in a bid for it, and it got accepted. I hugged him tight, congratulating him and promising to help however I could. I said he could use any tools from the homestead as long as he needed them. He thanked me, and we both moved on. I don't know if you noticed, he said, but the back part of the old barn is a shed I'm going to convert into a workshop. I'll need a bigger transformer for my plans, but the electric company said it would be no problem. And when will that happen? The Monday after the open house, he said, sounding pleased. What about Carrie? Will she help you? Until school starts in August, he replied, but she'll be busy with her orientation next week. I'll need to find someone else and have her train them. She has someone in mind. That was a few days ago. Today he greeted me with, guess who called and asked if she could visit this weekend? Clarice, I joked. Not quite, he replied with a laugh, but she is riding with Rebecca. Then it must be the lovely Miss Tricia. She will be a nice sight. So will Rebecca, he replied, if I recall right. We're definitely going to make time for swimming every day, and anything else we can think of to help them show their best sides. Since you'll surely see Tricia's best sides again, I assume you want to see Rebecca's too. I do, so let's think of something in case she's resting upstairs. No way. I'm not falling for that, unless she decides to support one or more of the others, like Gina and Danny, and she's too competitive for that. In my opinion, you should start trying oysters, spinach, and sunflower seeds. We had all three when we visited H-E-B on Wednesday while going to Lowe's and Home Depot in Marble Falls, and we stocked up just in case. We've never had a failure yet, but we were moving away from our peak youth every day while women were becoming more confident. It was hard to picture Danielle at 40, even more attractive and experienced than now. She could surprise me. Gina was just as fierce, but Rebecca was a mystery. Her calm nature might show in other ways, or it could just be a front. I hoped it was a front because it would be sad for all that beauty to go to waste. That woman deserved love, a partner, and a family. Not saying I could provide all that, but I could offer some good times. I spent Thursday afternoon cleaning the house with help from Carrie, who noticed things that needed tidying that I didn't see. Surely I don't need glasses before I even turn 30. I complained. She assured me it was just a difference between genders that my wife would fix. To my surprise and delight, a fancy Jeep Wagoner pulled up while I was eating breakfast, and two of the nicest workers I'd ever seen climbed out. They wore steel-toe boots, boot-cut jeans, and open denim shirts over white T-shirts, with their hair pulled back in ponytails. The only thing that made them different from other workers was the pink ribbons tied in bows around their waists. The most charming thing I've ever seen. "Hello, you two are among the prettiest workers I've seen, besides Brooklyn and Carrie," I thought. "Come in and have breakfast with me. I have fresh eggs, homemade sausage, and biscuits with butter and jelly." "As you can tell, I'm all set up here. He's gone country," they sang back before giving me warm hugs that made me feel great all day. "Where's Bill? Isn't he usually here by now?" "Yes, but he had something to do first. We didn't expect you this early." "Well, feed us, give us a tour, and then tell us what to do," Rebecca said. "Oh, and coffee." "We stopped at a bad store on the way here. It was so awful we threw it out the window." They parked in the back, so I took them into the kitchen, pointed at my fancy coffee maker, which makes good coffee, put the biscuits back in the oven, warmed up the sausage, and scrambled more eggs. They looked eager as they sipped their coffee mugs without care. Then they stood at the table and Tricia said, "We need plates and forks." I pointed to the cabinet and drawer and continued cooking their eggs. A few minutes later, the table was set and the food was ready. They dug in happily, even though they had not worked yet. Maybe they were getting ready. The tour was filled with excitement, so I brought up needing a woman's touch, to which they responded with more enthusiasm than at the table. Their chatter was quick and full of words I didn't understand, so I let them explore while I cleaned up the kitchen, then called out, "Not today, girls. Today we're sorting through some items we left in the barn for the upcoming open house. I think you'll like what you find, and maybe you can think of new ways to use some of it." That turned out to be true. In an old, worn wooden box, they discovered a collection of interesting things. They were so thrilled that they called Kay to come and see. I thought I was sending them back to work when I pointed out that there were more boxes of similar age that they should explore too. Each one they opened made them squeal with excitement. "Oh, wow," Rebecca exclaimed. "Look at these linens. Some are embroidered and some have lovely lace added. All of them are vintage materials. They're in great condition too. And the towels, you should see all the monogrammed ones. They look almost new compared to what we see today. You might not want to use them, but they will look amazing on display." Before they could open the big, heavy trunks that the boxes had been on, Kay arrived, and they had to go through the contents of 3 boxes first. I had moved the trunks to clean the area underneath, and the women knelt in front of the trunks like they were special artifacts. I looked at their finds and wondered if I had enough space to display everything properly. I decided to call Raphael. "Rafe, this is Dan McMillan. Are you coming out to set up the shed today or tomorrow? You said you'd do it this week." He hesitated, so I said, "All right, don't worry about it. I found someone else who can have it ready by Tuesday. Their materials are better for the price, too." "Hold on, Dan. We just had a cancellation and our schedule is clear for this afternoon and tomorrow morning. We can finish it by noon tomorrow." "That sounds good. I'll see you in about an hour with your team. Kay and 2 other women are here, and we need that shed soon." The mention of Kay seemed to motivate him even more, though I wasn't sure if it was concern or her charm. I walked back into the barn and tackled the little tasks that take up so much time. When I reached the sound system, I opened up the area with my classic jukebox, a Wurlitzer-style one with LED lights and a digital drive filled with my favorite music. No one knew about it except me, so I picked an album, hit play, and waited for Kay to notice. I played Hot Rocks. the Rolling Stones' greatest hits from 1964 to 1971. I knew Kay's grandmother, like mine, loved this music, so we were both familiar with tunes from the 50s and 60s. As soon as the song started, she turned around, jumped up, found me with the jukebox, and came running. "I can't believe you got this. When did you buy it, and why was it kept a secret?" "It's not hidden, just safe. It was a bit pricey." "It arrived yesterday, and this is only the second time we're using it. We'll enjoy it next weekend when the band takes a break." "Isn't it cool?" She clapped and jumped in joy, then gave me a friendly hug. I couldn't help but tease. "Still have your dance outfit from back then?" She giggled and replied, "Oh yes, I do. I have my outfits from the 60s dances we used to have. Slavery might be more fun than I thought." The other two friends weren't as familiar with classic music as we were, but they could dance just as well. We took a break to dance that lasted as long as the first side of the album. Everyone was out of breath, so we grabbed some water and a cold drink before getting back to work. An hour later, they called me over and shared what they had found. I understood some of the dinner items and silver utensils, but a lot of their talk was hard to follow. I knew I would need a clearer explanation later. "The team building the metal shed next to the barn will be here any minute," one of them said. "Once they finish putting it up tomorrow, I want to move everything into it so we can sort it out. If you found things for the house, feel free to move them. We can take everything else tomorrow afternoon, set it on tables, and go through it. It has air conditioning and heat, so we'll be comfortable." "Really?" Rebecca asked. "You don't want to check it out first and choose what you want?" Kay's laughter joined mine. "I'm guessing Danny thinks we know more about this than he does, so he's trusting us to pick the best and set it up." "Exactly, and I apologize for asking you to wear work clothes. You deserve to wear shorts and t-shirts for the work I gave you. If you want to change, go ahead. I'll keep working out here, so bring your things inside and pick a bedroom if you plan to stay. Trisha, if you're staying with Bill, they should be back soon." They walked away, arms full of treasures, and I admired their outfits as I saw dust on the road. Rafe and his team rolled in with a trailer, parked next to the slab, climbed out, and began unloading materials. Rafe came over to chat while his crew set up. I noticed that the walls were already put together. "Do they come like that, or do you assemble them?" I asked. "We do that part, making sure to reinforce where we bolt things together. Putting up the walls is easy, but making the roof takes longer. Then comes the more detailed work, adding coverings with foam insulation in between." "Come watch us do that. It's pretty cool. We'll install windows and doors, hang lights, wire it up, turn on the air conditioning, and connect it to the security system. It sounds simple, and it is, but it requires precision. You can't fix mistakes with metal like you can with wood." He might not always be reliable, but he and his team certainly knew what they were doing. By the time Bill and Charlie returned, the walls were up. When we decided to go swimming, the door and windows were framed, and they were working on the roof. I was impressed, as I was with Rebecca's swimwear. She looked great, just like Trisha and Kay did in theirs. Kay had a drawer here now filled with swimsuits, clothes, jeans, and shorts since she changed here often. Bill and I teased her about it, but it made sense. Charlie, Bill, and Carrie even had their drawers now. When I went to my room to change, I found Rebecca's luggage and clothes hanging in the closet. I was a bit surprised, but it also made sense. She was practical, and we both understood why she was here, so there was no need to pretend. I appreciated that, and I planned to spend time with her, starting at the river. We had started to take swimsuits for granted, but the excitement from the triplets quickly changed that. Trisha confidently showcased her appealing features, drawing everyone's attention. But as I managed to look away, I noticed that the rest of her tall and slim figure was also very attractive. Kay's outfit highlighted her smooth skin and well-shaped legs, showing off her lovely figure. Rebecca had a nice balance too. She was tall and slim like Trisha, but her figure was evenly shaped from top to bottom. It was hard to look at just one of them, and my friends seemed to feel the same way, as if we were watching a tennis match, glancing from one woman to another. Charlie had a true appreciation for his wife's beauty, and we all agreed that she looked fantastic at 52. He was planning a special week for her, and I thought she should hurry him along. The longer he plotted, the more creative his ideas got. I found it hard to imagine her doing some of the things he envisioned, but sometimes people surprise you with what they are willing to do. I remembered some late-night parties where I encountered special women who surprised me with their interest. Those were fun times. When I looked at Kay and then Carrie, it was hard to picture her at 52. I knew that Carrie's mother didn't age well, but I thought Carrie would be different. She might change a little with time, but her lovely figure would likely stay. As for Rebecca, I didn't know much about her family, but I suspected that good genes and her strong will would keep her looking great for years to come. I was somewhat lucky with my own family history. My dad and grandfather were similar in size and health until they passed away. My grandfather had a work accident when he was in his 60s, and my dad was in a serious accident at 60. My mom died just before I was born, so I was often called a miracle baby. My dad had a tough time for a year after her passing, but with the help of his parents who lived with us, he took good care of me. After not dating for years, he eventually found someone he loved and got married. Unfortunately, I never got along well with her, so I spent time bouncing between my grandparents' house and living with my dad and his new wife, who at least accepted me. I picked up skills quickly in many areas, except when it came to women. I often found myself lost in relationships, learning only through experience, which wasn't easy. Despite being taken advantage of in past relationships, I married Rita. She was charming and wanted to get married, and her father was wealthy, so it seemed like a good idea at the time. I made many mistakes in that relationship, and despite my past experiences, I didn't seem to learn how to spot trouble. Now I found myself in a confusing situation, being tested by women without knowing why. All of them were wonderful and smart, sometimes smarter than I was, but I wished I understood the rules of this playful game. Instead, one woman would visit, we would get close, I would become infatuated, and then she'd leave. When another showed up the following week, I would do it all over again. It felt foolish, but I couldn't help myself. But this is the last time, and she promises to come back next week, unlike the one who said, "Don't call me, I'll call you," but never did. Or the one I begged to stay, watching her drive away with tears in my eyes. Yes, this is an adventure. I didn't stay sad long about Gina or Danny leaving because I was busy and they hinted that we might meet again in the future. And now the queen bee is here. She showed her leadership over the others right from when I first met them in the square, setting the rule about not dating until the divorce is final. I bet she is behind the plan of 3 days each and then go away that they agreed upon. As we say in shuffleboard, she has the final shot. I feel a bit confused about what the prize is, because if it's me, there could be a lot of jealousy and doubt. Why would those lovely women want me anyway? I'm okay, but I'm not exactly a catch. More like a fish that's decent, but not a trophy. Rebecca is beautiful, classy, polite, and comes from a wealthy family. I should be really happy that she is here and acting like one of the group, but I feel suspicious. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Plus, she is impressively smart and charming. She is probably a hard worker too, or at least she came ready to contribute, and she certainly found treasures in dusty old boxes well. Did she just splash me and dart away like a fish? I think that was her. Time to focus on having some fun while playing games or being silly together. Surely she can't feel as good as she looks. By evening, I was thinking differently. She might look like a princess, but she fit in perfectly with us. We played in the water, taught her to jump off the swing, which was mostly loud splashes at first, and sat by the rocks talking about all sorts of things. It was a great time. Trisha was fun as always, and Bill seemed a bit serious. Charlie and Kay were entertaining too, but I overheard Charlie telling Rebecca she would need to practice for the night, and her laughter sounded excited. I figured there might be some playful challenge involved, and I wouldn't mind either when she had her time with me. As twilight arrived and the air got cooler, we headed back to the house to change. I started a fire while Bill shaped the hamburger into patties. I call them patties because he just made big balls of beef and pressed them down with his hand. The girls chopped up veggies to dress them, as they say, and joked about Bill's rough way of making patties. Charlie buttered the buns, got the chips and paper plates ready, and arranged the buns in a dish to bring to me when the burgers were ready. We opened cans of peaches and a bag of cookies for dessert. It was a lovely meal with friends outside under the trees, lit by citronella torches and enjoying the summer night. Kay was a country girl, and Trish showed her country charm, but Rebecca was a surprise around the little campfire. Tomorrow, I plan to have her ride a horse with me to help gather some calves that needed their shots and treatments. That would be a good test. But tonight, Charlie was going to show us the Casey duo. Turns out they used to perform together a lot years ago, but stopped when life got busy. With all you young people around, it took us back to our 20s. We thought we could still play some music. Charlie got his old guitar and we started practicing. It felt great to see them doing this. Charlie strummed a few chords while Kay handed out the words. They started singing old Western songs I remembered from my childhood, like Red River Valley, Clementine, and Home on the Range. The biggest surprise was how well Trisha sang. Rebecca was also good, and Bill and I joined in when needed. But Trisha, Kay, and Charlie really made a fantastic group. We had a wonderful time. I joked with them about hiding their talents. Eventually, everyone left. Bill and Trisha headed to their place, Charlie and Kay went home, and Rebecca and I walked into my old house. She paused at the door and said, "I always feel like I'm coming home when I walk inside. It's a strange but comforting feeling." She looked up at me, and I leaned down and kissed her. It wasn't the same kind of spark I had with Danny, but it still took my breath away. Rebecca wasn't as experienced as some of my past partners, but she was eager to learn and excited. We found a rhythm that worked for us. We spent a cozy night together, and when I woke up, I felt her close to me. After some moments together, she smiled and told me about her mixed feelings regarding our time together. "I enjoy our time, but I need to feel in control sometimes. When you don't stop when I ask, it worries me. Yes, I like that you helped me feel good, but it's tricky for me to explain," she admitted. My past dates were nice guys from my background, and I thought that was the kind of person I would marry. But then I became a coach and saw a different side of life that I liked. It's refreshing to be around a variety of people. She explained what drew her to him. There was a rough side to him, but he had a caring heart in the middle. Not all the polite men she knew and dated had that. It might sound silly, but she thought many coaches cared for their players more than some refined men cared for their own children. Coaches and men like them treasured their family more than their own lives. When she opened her world, she had more fun with dating. But she started choosing difficult men. She was hurt by a married man who lied to her about being separated. After that, she rarely dated. This weekend was the exception. "Why me?" she asked. "Do I seem like the kind of man who would follow your rules while doing what I wanted behind your back like many rich men you know?" She sighed and thought for a moment. "You seem to fit what my friends were looking for." I was intrigued. "Remember when I teased you with my dress, but when we met you were still married." "My friends and I made a promise never to date married men. I know the pictures showed your marriage was really over. But a rule is a rule. Then my friends told me good things about you. Amy came back full of praise. Gina called right after the divorce was final. Danielle had a great time but became quiet about some parts, so I came with high expectations. You have exceeded them in every way. I also see we might not be perfectly matched in some areas, but I would like to continue spending time with you this weekend and see if things get better. I am very attracted to you, but you also make me a little nervous." "Other than your reluctance to try new things, it has been great," I replied. We continued to enjoy our time together that weekend in a warm and close way. They spent more time together in the bedroom. He helped her relax and feel safe. They talked about her feelings and the walls she kept up around her heart. He encouraged her to let go of old worries and be herself for the weekend. She sighed and thought for a moment. "You seem to fit what my friends look for," she said. "I was curious at first, but when we met you were still married." "My friends and I promised never to get close to married men. I know the pictures showed your marriage was over. But a rule is a rule. Then my friends told me good things about you. They came back full of praise, so I arrived with high hopes. You have gone beyond them in every way. I also see we might not match perfectly in some areas. But I would like to keep spending time with you this weekend and see if things feel better. I'm very drawn to you, but you also make me a little nervous." "Other than your reluctance to try new things, it has been great," he replied. They continued to enjoy their time together that weekend in a warm and close way. She might leave with some of her old careful habits still in place. But he would keep trying to help her open up. She was a wonderful person even while holding back. If she could just let herself be free, it would be special for both of them. He waited until she felt ready. Then he gently turned her so they faced each other again. They held each other close and made love once more. It felt right and full of care. She whimpered a few times while they talked. But now they moved together on the bed in a new position. They stayed connected and shared the moment until they both felt calm and happy. She began to move first. They both knew this weekend could change things for her in a good way. She finally let go of her old careful ways. Over the next hour, she tried things she had only dreamed about before but never done. It felt like a big weight lifted from her heart. Just before she drifted off to sleep curled close against me, I whispered in her ear, "Now do you understand? I am sorry I changed your life plan. But you do not belong with someone like Chad III. You belong with a regular guy like me, a man who will love you with his whole heart. He will treat you like the princess you are and give you strong, smart children your parents will love. It is your choice, but now you know what the choice really is." She made a soft, happy sound and wiggled a little closer to me. Then she fell asleep with the cutest little snore I had ever heard. She was a true jewel and a real prize. Now that she had a better idea of what she wanted, the decision was hers to make. I smiled, kissed her neck gently, and soon joined her in peaceful sleep. Rebecca moved carefully as she joined me for breakfast, and she walked toward the shower with a bit of stiffness. Initially, she wanted to skip the day's task of gathering cattle, but soon returned dressed for the job in her jeans, boots, and hat. I readied the horses and offered to help her get on, but she shot me a look and said, "If I'd known we were doing this today, I would have planned differently. No, I don't need help." She guided her horse to a dirt pile I had prepared and climbed up to saddle her horse. She wasn't an experienced cowgirl, but had been around horses before. She rode carefully, keeping her weight balanced to avoid discomfort as we rode out to the pasture. Once we gathered the cattle, I sorted the heifers, cows, and calves that needed their vaccinations. I took them through the chute one at a time to care for them. When a heifer charged at her, she shouted and waved her arms to turn it back so I could catch it. She muttered about something afterward, and I had a feeling it was aimed at me. I would have laughed, but she was preparing the branding iron, so I kept quiet. Even though she thought branding was harsh, she helped keep the irons hot. I tagged the male calves, planning to have them taken care of later. The females would stay while the others could be sold. Since I bought pregnant cows and a new bull, their calves would eventually be bred with a different bull to avoid any problems. While many may not worry about it, I wanted to make sure things went smoothly. By the time we were ready to ride again, she felt better, though still a bit grumpy. I rode close to her and asked, "Have you ever tried riding like that?" "I haven't, but it sounds interesting." She reached for her riding whip playfully, and I laughed and rode away. She chased me for a little while, swinging the whip, but soon we were both laughing together. I slowed down so she could catch up, and we both laughed when she asked, "You mean riding a horse, not anything else, right?" I told her that anything else was not happening unless she wanted it to, which made her laugh and say it would never happen. She playfully hit my thigh with her riding crop, reminding me of the fun we had the night before. After a moment of laughter, we kissed. She gave me a good whack on the thigh with that crop to show me the kind of pain she was feeling. Unbeknownst to us, a young couple on an ATV was watching us from across the fence. I was surprised to see anyone there since that area had become overgrown just like this one before I cleared it out. Our surprised looks brought big smiles to their faces. The woman in her 30s said, "You two are so adorable." I remember when we were newlyweds, trying everything and feeling so sore the next day. But I was just like you. I disliked the aftermath but loved the excitement at the moment. They seemed to be enjoying my discomfort and Rebecca's reaction, but I apologized anyway. "I'm really sorry you overheard us. I thought we were alone out here and I couldn't help teasing her." "If I had known," the man cut in, "we should be the ones apologizing. We saw you working with the cattle and wanted to introduce ourselves. I'm Sam, and this is my wife, Emily. I mention our full names because we come from families that settled here. We know you saved the Horister homestead, and we'd love an invitation to your housewarming next weekend." "How about I invite you in exchange for not spreading what you heard?" I suggested. "Of course, but we wouldn't say anything anyway," Sam replied. "I would have invited you regardless. You seem to know me, but I doubt you know my friend, Rebecca. She's here this weekend helping me prepare for the big event, but we worked with the cattle this morning before getting started on everything else." They exchanged glances, and Sam said, "We would love to help if you'd allow us. We'd like to see what you have planned and don't mind putting in some work." "That sounds great, especially compared to dealing with bees and cleaning up after owls. We'd be happy to help, but is there a road I don't know about? If there is, you could come around the fence by the river and to the house." "There isn't a road. There should be, but the hunters only keep their paths open, which only leads to their campsite and feeding stations. We're here because I had the shop fix these tires. But I can see the house from here, so it's not far, right? Can we climb over the fence and walk?" Emily asked. "You could, or we could ride together. Both of you girls are light, and Sam and I are not too heavy. You can ride behind me, and Sam can ride behind Rebecca, and we'll let the horses take us home." Emily, who wanted us to call her Em, was tall and slender, just like Rebecca, and she easily swung up behind me. Sam did the same with Rebecca, and we made our way to the barn with arms around each other. Sam was chatting with Rebecca while Em talked to me, sharing compliments and playful comments. I appreciated feeling her presence against my back and the gentle hands resting on my stomach. Em had short black hair, a lovely face, and tattoos of an angel and a butterfly on her wrists. She was attractive enough that I might consider being interested if she were single, but I wouldn't trade a night with Rebecca for anything. It seemed like she was suggesting a swap or some kind of gathering with her and her husband, and I had only just met her. Of course, she heard us talking about our plans. They kept telling me how great the house and barn look now and how wonderful our housewarming party would be. They guessed that many people from the county and beyond would come, assuming we let them. I had to think about this. If the event got too large, we might struggle with food, drinks, and space. But we weren't planning to keep anyone out, so it could happen anyway. I wanted to discuss this with Kay, so I called her and asked her and Charlie to come over. They were all familiar with each other, so we had some catching up to do before focusing on the main topic: how many guests we might have at our open house. After some discussion, Kay and Charlie came up with a more manageable number. It was still higher than our initial guest list, but less than everyone in the county and their friends. I needed to inform the vendors about our update. We had a taco truck, a hamburger and hot dog stand, and a pizza wagon all coming from the nearby town. Kay's group was preparing chocolate sheet cakes, both with and without nuts, and the ice cream guy would bring some supplies to fill our new freezer. I remembered that hunting season was around the corner, and I hoped to fill the freezer with game and fish. I also realized I still had my office to manage and needed to make sure it met my standards. The internet was amazing for this. You could search for hours and receive everything you wanted in just a few days. The delivery promises always sound tempting. I know a bit about what I want, but I needed to check for the latest updates to ensure I was getting quality items. My last office upgrade was the previous year, so it was definitely time to look into new options. With our plans for the event underway, Kay and I took care of the horses. We washed them down, gave them some care, and put them in the shaded area with food and hay. Once we finished that, we quickly freshened up and took a shower, enjoying the new water heater that worked perfectly. Afterward, we changed into comfortable clothes and sat at the kitchen table to chat. Rebecca started the conversation with a sigh, which made it clear she had something on her mind. "I thought some of us might come for your big event, so I texted this morning and I was surprised. You might not know this, but Amy is engaged now, which happened a few weeks ago, so she can't make it. Gina is busy because she's dating a football coach who wants to enjoy his last free weekend at the coast with her. And Danielle has been spending time with her family in La Grange, reconnecting with her grandfather. He is both selling and buying cattle, and he wants her there to help since he plans to leave the ranch and house to her. She sends her apologies and hopes you can forgive her. So it looks like I'm the only one left. What time do you need me here? How about you stay and I'll provide what you need? As you can see, this situation keeps changing, so I could use all the help I can get this week and next weekend." She looked away, and I understood her answer before she even declined. "I'd love to help, but I can't. We each get 1 3-day weekend with you." After that, for whoever is still interested, it's open season on Danny. I'll come back Thursday afternoon and stay until Sunday. We have staff training all next week, and school starts the week after, so I have to leave Sunday morning. Well, let's make the most of today and tomorrow. I'll let you decide, but if you're okay with it, let's drive to San Angelo today. I can get some things from Sam's Club. We can check out the historic downtown and then enjoy a nice steak at Loick's Steakhouse in Rowan on the way back. What do you think? Sounds great. I've never been to San Angelo. What should I wear? It's supposed to be 106 degrees this afternoon, so wear what's comfortable. Ha! You want me in as little as possible, but since we're in West Texas, I'll play it safe and dress appropriately. She chose a cute sundress that looked nice on her, and she definitely turned heads. The Horister gathering was moving to the KCH ranch, and thankfully they didn't want to travel west in this heat. They planned to go swimming at 5. We didn't mind. We grabbed a fresh deli sandwich and a soda at the butcher shop and headed out. She held my sandwich while I tried to drive safely but fast. The speed limit was 75, but we went a little over to keep up with everyone else. I love bench seats. To eat and feed me, she sat in the middle and turned a bit toward me. Her dress had hiked up a bit, giving me an unintentional view which made her playful. "Men," she said, laughing, "you saw me earlier today, but you can't keep your eyes off me while we drive. What is it about this dress?" "Honestly, I don't know, but I think you looked great no matter what you wore," I said with a grin. She giggled and told me to take a bite and focus on driving. We picked up my generators and other items, then headed downtown, taking a scenic route past some beautiful old homes. Some shops were closed, but she spotted the sassy fox and insisted we stop. I found a spot on the couch in the soda fountain area while she shopped. I watched her show off her choices and gave my thoughts on her selections. She made it clear what she liked, and I was happy to agree because everything looked great on her. She picked out some clothes for school and a few cozy items for the housewarming party. Shopping done, we had a little time to explore the historic Depot District, see Fort Concho, where the Buffalo Soldiers once protected the area, and take a short walk along the Concho River. Yes, it was after 5:30 in the evening and the sun was setting, but it was still very hot at 105 degrees. So we decided to get back into the air-conditioned pickup and drive to Rowena, which is about 27 miles northeast of Angelo. During the ride, Rebecca and I had more relaxed conversations, and I enjoyed hearing about her childhood, family, and friends. She came from two founding families of Highland Park, the Prathers and the Armstrongs, both of which had a lot of money and privilege. They lived in large, beautiful homes on estates and had high expectations for her, wanting her to fit in with everyone rather than just enjoy her privileged status as a Highland Park princess. Teaching science and coaching tennis at a public school in College Station High School meant she was giving back in her own way, even if most of her students were children of college staff. Rebecca knew who she was and was proud of it, but she didn't show off about it. The more I learned about her, the more I saw how special she was, even if she enjoyed being my companion. It was just before 7 when we arrived at the Steakhouse, which was quite busy. The regulars were used to visitors, as people traveled from all over to dine at the historic Low Inn and Steakhouse. Although they might be indifferent towards outsiders, Rebecca stood out, and people noticed as we were shown to our seats in the back. She laughed and said she had to try one of their beers, ordering a Rowena Brewed Horny Toad beer. I chuckled too, but chose a different drink instead. We both preferred our steaks medium rare, so we decided to share a large porterhouse steak, with salads, loaded baked potatoes, and fried mushrooms as a starter. We couldn't quite decide if the food was just excellent or truly amazing, so we gave it 5 stars on Yelp and Google before we left. After enjoying our drinks, Rebecca became calm and thoughtful, and we shared stories about our lives, both the good and the bad. It's interesting how difficult experiences can shape us deeply, which research confirms. Then she asked me a question I had been trying to avoid. So Rita made a mess of your life and you moved here. You made some friends, bought a ranch and cattle and a nice house. Now what, is this your plan? Are you going to retire at 30? We drove in silence for a while before I responded. I'm not sure. I could sell my business and live off that money comfortably for the rest of my life. I could keep expanding in North Texas and manage it from here. If I got my pilot's license, that would make it easier. Or I could start buying some historic buildings in Chance and the county and fix them up. I have the money and enjoy that kind of work, but I would need a good team for that. We could begin with Bill's new property after his housewarming. Or I could listen to my instincts and take a break from real estate and construction. Something tells me another recession might be on the way. Perhaps I could buy more land and raise cattle, which could be beneficial if a recession happens, since people still need to eat. So you don't see yourself going back to North Texas to make even more money to keep up with others? Right now, no, I don't. I won't say never to any outcome, but honestly, right now I just want to fall in love with a woman who shares my values, get married, and raise some kids. Pursuing my goals while trying to make more money would mean I'd be a part-time dad, and I wouldn't truly be there for my kids. I worked hard from age 16 to 29, and now I want to focus on family and friendships. I want to enjoy simple things like sipping a cold soda, swimming, and dancing when I feel like it. I don't blame Rita completely, especially since she kept encouraging me to earn more. We were fine until I started working long hours and she got restless. It makes me wonder if she was bored and maybe unfaithful all along. But that was then, and this is now. The law took care of our differences, if not everything else. I've moved on to a better place in my life, and I feel like exciting times are ahead. She was quiet for a long moment, so I kept driving. Danny, you are quite the puzzle. You confuse me. I'd say I've never met someone like you, but that feels a bit false since I haven't met many men outside my usual circle. At first, I didn't think much of you. You're a handsome guy with a dog and a lot to say to the ladies. Going through a divorce and blaming your ex-wife, even though you seem good with women. It's like a stereotype, but you're a bit different. Despite your charm and playful nature, you're surprisingly smart, educated, and deep in thought. Thanks, I guess. There's a lot to unpack in that description, but I like being called smart and thoughtful. I'm looking to improve my education using the internet because things have changed so much since I was in college. I want to keep up with what's going on in the world, especially with the US changing its approach. I need to learn about AI and how it affects business, politics, and our daily lives. I want to understand what's happening in politics today because our country feels so divided. How does someone's education shape their beliefs and political views? Is ignorance the problem, or is there an easier way to deal with life's challenges? Can questioning what we see really help us understand better, or does it just confuse us? Also, I haven't traveled much outside this continent, just to the beaches in Mexico. As long as I'm doing well financially, I want to explore. There's so much of this country I haven't seen, plus places like Alaska and Canada, and I want to visit Iceland and Greenland, as well as many countries in Europe, including Italy and Greece. One day, I'd love to see Australia, New Zealand, Antarctica, the South Pacific Islands, and parts of Asia. But my travel plans might depend on political situations, and if things don't change, I might not be welcome everywhere I'd like to go. I've always been curious and eager to learn, and now I have access to incredible resources to help me understand the world better. If life were ideal, I'd have a loving partner to share this journey with. But that might just be a dream. I'm not complaining. There are plenty of things and friends to enjoy without needing a special someone. But I believe everyone feels happiest with someone who cares for them. Rebecca looked at me with a strange, sad smile and said, "Those are words any woman would love to hear from a possible partner. You are more thoughtful and interesting than I thought, Danielle Kirk Macmillan, and I had already put you in the top group of people. You are not even 30, and you can already take time off and explore the world. I have traveled more than you, but not in the way you plan. I suggest you travel first, then think about your education. It might help avoid some bumps along the way." "Well, if that's the case, may I invite you to travel with me? Take a break for the semester and let's explore. You can choose the place." Wow. I've had guys suggest we try living together or go on a trip, but I've never had anyone ask me to explore together like this. I might need a couple of days to think about that. That night was a mix of tenderness and passion. Rebecca stood out to me in ways that were familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. But just like the others, she packed up and returned to College Station. I pushed down my frustration and fought the urge to express my anger. After running a few miles and lifting weights to clear my mind, I reviewed my list of tasks to complete before Saturday. One of the bigger jobs, I had just enough time for before sunset, if all went well. I carefully measured and dug 3 holes for posts, making each slightly larger so I could add more concrete. I struck some limestone, but nothing too hard, so I used my digging bar to break it up in the post hole digger to remove the pieces until I got the right shape. Once that was done, I turned on the generator, mixed the concrete, and set the metal posts in the center of the holes. I also placed the insulated wire through the post nearest the gate. Concrete sets best when it's cool and damp, so I used water from my truck to soak the ground around each post and drizzled it over the top of the exposed concrete. I needed to repeat this many times before sunset in the heat. After the pipes are set, I'll place 2 flagpoles wider out and do the same for the post that holds the solar panels. Those will provide light for the flags and power the gate opener and keypad. When we first talked about it, I thought the arched gateway was a bit much, but after Brooklyn, Kay, and Carrie shared their ideas, I got on board, and now I really like it. The gate will be set back from the road with fences angled at 45 degrees. Big Spanish daggers will be close to the gate, surrounded by many yucca plants and colorful native flowers. Though wildflower season is over for most plants, some sunflowers and daisies still bloom. But by late March, new seeds will sprout and the flowers will make the entrance truly beautiful. The sign in a neat circle hanging from the arch was a nice touch, thanks to Carrie and Brooklyn working together. Monday was filled with regular tasks to prepare, but on Tuesday, I went out early to check on the cows and calves in the back pasture. They were doing well for August, but had eaten most of the grass and were working on the round bales of hay. I checked the water trough, opened the feed shed, spread 2 sacks of feed in each trough, then opened the pen before climbing on the fence to avoid the rush of cows and calves heading for the feed. The cows and calves quickly filled the first feeder, then the second and third. The 4th feeder stayed empty for a moment until Brutus, the Charolais bull, strode over and pushed his way in to eat. The smaller animals, like calves or less dominant cows, moved to the 4th feeder, where they actually found more to eat than those who chased them away from the other troughs. It was an interesting turn of events. After I rode my blue roan horse back toward the house, I heard the sound of an ATV coming from the pasture to the west. I figured it was Sam and Emily. I guided Blue toward the fence where they were headed and was surprised to see an older man, around 45, getting off the ATV. "Good morning," I called out. "And a good morning to you, Mr. McMillan, I presume?" "At your service, sir. How can I help you?" "I'm Samuel Edward Horister II. You can call me Ed. I used to live here and went to chance schools. When I was younger, I was called Sam Ed or Junior, but I'm named after my grandfather, so I'm not really a junior. Confusing, right?" he said with a smile. "I think I understand, but Sam mentioned you were back home." "I was, but something came up over the weekend, so I came down to look around and talk to my cousin Charlie." I nodded, wanting to keep the conversation moving along. "Charlie suggested I speak with you about my situation if you have a few minutes." "There's a shade tree over there. Let's sit and chat," I said. We took a moment to drink water from our containers and then sat down in the grass, facing each other. "Everyone really likes what you've done with the old place. My wife and I will be visiting on Saturday, and from what Charlie says, we'll be impressed," Ed said. "I'm happy to hear you and your wife are coming, Mr. Horister. I plan to ask Charlie and others who spent time there to share their thoughts, so don't be surprised if I reach out to you." "I'll look forward to that." Now to get to business, my father took the pasture I rode in on and the one next to it, totaling a section. My brother is a doctor in Amarillo, my sister lives in Denver, and I live in Dallas. My son is also in Dallas and is closer to the ranch than his cousins. So, to keep it brief, they want to sell the ranch, and I guess I do too. I'm getting older and no longer want to camp out, plus I sold my trailer years ago. Sammy is the only one who still visits, usually just twice a year to hunt. "So would you be interested in buying the place with a couple of conditions?" "That depends on the price and conditions, Ed. If you're paying cash, we'll take 12% below the current market value. The condition is that 1 week each year must be set aside for family members to come and hunt, and the week before you'll let us set up stands and feeders. You can set all the rules about the animals taken, and if those rules are broken, the agreement is canceled. As you can probably guess, Sam M. and maybe me are the ones who will be here if anyone," I said. "We have a basic agreement. By the time our lawyers work out the details, I'll have the funds. Once everyone signs, the bank can help with the sale and you can choose your weekend. I'm a bit busy this week, but I can make the calls to get things started. Let me give you my lawyer's contact information so you can share your proposal with him." On the drive back, I wondered why I wanted to buy land in Chance County. I didn't have an answer, other than that it seemed like a good deal. It reminded me of how Rita would buy things on impulse, not because she needed them, but just because they were so cheap. I felt silly for doing the same with land, but I figured I could always sell it later for more money, unless the market crashes. If I decide to expand my ranch, I will have to fix the old roads and fences and clear some fields if there are any still there. Ed invited me to check it out whenever, but I had more pressing tasks this week. I needed to turn on the walk-in cooler, the drink dispenser, and the chest freezer so they would be cold in time for deliveries tomorrow. I also needed to organize the storage shed for the non-perishable goods. Once that was done, I was planning to go into town for groceries after having lunch at Zamora's. I needed some time for myself. One thing about Fred, he hires the nicest waitresses in Chance, and he doesn't care about their background. Today, I had Brenda serving me. She was a lovely single mother with auburn hair and freckles, and her 2 daughters looked just like her. After school, they help out by rolling utensils, cleaning tables, and the older one even carries food trays when the cafe is busy. They are so sweet and hardworking, and I have a feeling Fred gives Brenda a bit extra in her paycheck for them. He is a loud, cheerful, but kind man. I ordered the Tex-Mex plate, which had 2 cheese enchiladas, a crispy beef taco, rice, beans, and a salad with lettuce and tomatoes, plus chips and salsa. Every bite was tasty, and I knew I'd need a nap afterward. Still, I enjoyed the sopapilla that Brenda gave me for free, probably because I leave big tips when she serves me. She might think I have a crush on her, which I do admire her for her courage in raising her daughters after their loss. But I'm not alone in over-tipping her. Most people in Chance feel the same way. Overall, this town is kind and supportive, looking out for one another. Sadly, some aren't so friendly, and they only act nice when they want something from you or if you're part of their group. Every town has these people, but here, they often hide behind their religious beliefs. I find it hard to see how their actions match what they claim to believe. It was sitting in church with a group that made me uncomfortable when they gossiped and judged others, including the pastor. That's why I stopped going. I heard that the church split and that a more strict group started their own, so I plan to try the United Methodist Church again soon. When I got back to the ranch, I finished my to-do list for Tuesday and checked what I needed to do for tomorrow. I decided against going for a swim. Without Carrie, Kay, and all the energetic people, it just wasn't the same. Maybe when things calm down, I'll add a gazebo with a hot tub so I can enjoy seeing Kay and others all year round. I sat down to watch the news when my phone rang. "Hello, this is Dan McMillan." "Dan, it's Rebecca. I'm sorry to tell you, but I can't help on Saturday. My dad had a heart attack around noon. He's in the hospital now, and my mom is really upset. I flew up here and we're waiting for news about his tests." "That's where you need to be, taking care of your family. Don't worry about me," I said. She promised to keep me updated on her dad's condition. Still, I was short a hostess and a server, and I didn't want to burden Kay and Carrie. I called Kay, who just laughed and reassured me that they had everything under control. I called Carrie as well, and she said the same thing, telling me to focus on my tasks for Wednesday. What's happening then? I wondered. I had work planned for Thursday and Friday, so I needed to stay on track. I stayed up working late on Tuesday and finished my tasks for Wednesday, plus some extras. I slept in, had a bowl of cereal, and looked forward to the meal Kay had planned. I wasn't sure why we were celebrating, but she seemed excited. I found several things to do around the barn and kept busy until noon. I noticed some dust on a couple of vehicles, grabbed my things, and walked out to the picnic tables. It was an unusually cool August day, and having a picnic under the big oak tree felt just right. As they arrived, Kay opened the back doors of Charlie's truck, and Carrie and Bill rushed to help with the food. They had a lot of baskets and boxes to unload. Then a tall blonde stepped out of Bill's truck. She greeted Kay and Carrie, then headed towards me. Her outfit was perfect for a picnic, and she looked stunning. I stood there watching her walk toward me, probably with my mouth hanging open. "Hello, Danny, don't you remember me?" she asked as she got closer. "I think I do if you're the same girl we sent to college at the start of the summer. You've really blossomed," I replied, opening my arms for a hug. As we hugged, the moment felt special. She leaned back and smiled at me in a way that was captivating. I was so taken aback that I stood there, momentarily speechless, while everyone else laughed at me. "Wow, that was something. Have you been practicing?" I joked, and she laughed in reply. "No, I've always been able to do that, but you wouldn't let me. I'm not your little helper anymore, and I'm not going to let you avoid me." So I just went for it. I'm almost 22, and you're still 29. 7 years isn't too much difference. I heard Rebecca is coming back this weekend to help, but I won't just sit back and let her charm you. I've liked you since we met, and I've got 3 weeks off to get to know you better. I saw that surprised look on your face again, which made others laugh. I wasn't sure if I should tell you the truth or just see where things went, so I decided to say something different. "Wow, it's surprising that someone like you would like someone like me. I think you're too young, smart, and beautiful for me, but if you're serious, maybe we can see how we get along during my time off." "Okay, but what about Rebecca?" you asked. "Her father had a heart attack, so she won't be coming." Brooklyn frowned and said, "I'm so sorry. Please tell her I'll pray for him. She'll call me when she knows more. I'll let her know when I hear from her." Everyone joined in, and we had a quick prayer circle. After that, we unpacked the food and set it on the table before sitting down. Bill arrived just in time, and we teased him for coming in after the work was done. He was about to make a funny comeback when Brooklyn got up and rushed over to hug him. I watched as he looked very surprised. "Wow, Brooklyn, are you heading off to college or becoming a movie star?" "With all that hair, the makeup, and honestly, your style, what happened to our little helper and swim buddy?" I laughed, remembering I felt the same way not too long before. "Do I really look that different?" Brooklyn asked after sitting down again. "Yes and no," I responded. "You've always been beautiful, but now you look more polished, if that makes sense." My roommate taught me a lot about being a young lady. She helped me with things like posture, makeup, clothes that fit well, and how to speak in different situations. It was a lot to learn, but you get the idea. She even showed me how to shop online and in stores. Did you know places like TJ Maxx have high-quality clothes for much less money? There are sales for everything, from electronics to clothes and accessories. I had no idea, and I know Carrie didn't either. She taught me so much, and I realized I'm not just average. My grades were among the best in my classes. Of course, I couldn't have done this without my sponsors. I wouldn't have been able to buy these clothes without my Visa card being loaded every 2 weeks. I don't know who it was, but I promise I'll pay them back after I graduate. While Brooklyn was excitedly sharing, Carrie and Kay were setting up lunch from the insulated cooler. Bill, Charlie, and I set out the utensils and plates, and then Charlie and Bill brought drinks to the table. Finally, Kay touched Brooklyn's shoulder and said, "We know you're excited and want to share everything, but let's say a prayer and start eating first. It sounds like you've had a great time and we want to hear all about it." "I'm sorry," Brooklyn said, feeling a bit embarrassed for talking so much. "Would you like me to lead the prayer?" "Of course," Kay replied, surprised like the rest of us. She prayed a heartfelt prayer that made her preacher proud. She thanked the Lord for everyone in her life, the kindness of people she barely knew, the food on the table, and for sharing his love with us now and in the future. She hoped Carrie's college experience would be even better than her own and wished for all of us to gather again for Thanksgiving and Christmas. She ended with a prayer for Rebecca's dad and for guidance for his medical team. Chase had been sleeping in the cool room, but when he heard Brooklyn's voice, I knew he was awake because I heard the sound of the dog doors click open. Just as she finished praying, he came wiggling in, whining in his high-pitched way that seemed more like a little dog than a big Weimaraner. Brooklyn turned to him, hugged and kissed him, showering him with sweet words while he happily showed his excitement. Their antics made everyone at the table smile and laugh, with Brooklyn speaking in a playful voice and Chase wriggling joyfully. When he calmed down and rested his head on her leg, she added, "And Lord, we also thank you for Chase, the sweetest dog ever." The picnic lunch met the high standards set by Kay and her assistant, Carrie. They prepared fried chicken, slow-cooked black-eyed peas with ham, fresh spinach, mashed potatoes with gravy and biscuits. I groaned when Kay unveiled the apple pies, but I savored my slice, even though I felt quite full. As the girls cleaned up, I took out my spiral notebook and looked at the afternoon list, groaning again. It would be dark before I finished everything, I complained. Carrie took the notebook from me, read it, and said, "All right, everyone, if we are going swimming later, we have some tasks to do for the homecoming celebration. Bill, you and I will." And she began assigning jobs to everyone, including Brooklyn, me, Charlie, and Kay, all of whom agreed. We stored the leftovers in my outdoor fridge. The locals went inside to change into work clothes while Brooklyn pulled a suitcase from Charlie's truck and brought it into the house. I wrapped up the cleanup and started on the first task Carrie had assigned, just as Bill, Carrie, Kay, and Charlie came outside. They reached me when Brooklyn came outside, wearing her work boots and summer outfit. I didn't know why, but she looked taller with her legs appearing very long in her shorts. Charlie let out a whistle that seemed to express what everyone was thinking, and Brooklyn tilted her head to the side. "What? It's just me," she sighed playfully. "You're right, sugar," Charlie replied. "It's just that with all the lovely girls around this summer, none have legs quite like yours. Isn't that right, Kay?" I'd have to agree with him, seeing as he's noticed everyone. "We're just not used to you being around. Now let's get to work so we can see you in your swimsuit before it's too late." Inspired by this, we got to work and finished at 3:30, the hottest part of the day. The cool river water and the shade from the big trees were enticing, so we hurried inside to change. I was surprised to find Brooklyn's things spread out on my bed. I didn't know what I expected, but she seemed to read my mind and asked, "If you want me to keep my clothes in another room, I can do that. The others were all upstairs, so I figured." "Stop," I said. "This is fine. I'll change here and you can change in the restroom, then we can head out." Her bikini wasn't anything special, but her figure definitely stood out. I kept quiet, wanting to see Charlie and Bill's reactions first. I noticed their surprised looks, but they hurried her into the truck before turning to me. Bill joked, "Wow, Dan," and added, "The beautiful swan has arrived." Luckily, by 6, I felt more relaxed, but having Brooklyn join Carrie and Kay was quite a handful. I had seen more beauty that day than I thought possible. Then I found myself wondering where Brooklyn would spend the night since some of her clothes were in my room. Maybe the rest were at her family's place? Everyone wanted pizza for dinner, so I took their orders, drove to town, and picked them up. That gave me a chance to think about something other than the stunning girl in my room. I also called some new surveyors in town. They were locals who had returned to raise their children and knew the area well. When I explained my needs and the issue of thick bushes with few good fence lines, they told me they could do most of it with a drone. The rest would involve finding the old survey markers. I let them know where to find mine, which made things easier. They promised to have something for me in a couple of weeks. After loading the pizzas and salads, I decided to surprise Bill when I got back. Once I unloaded everything onto the old table, I asked, "So, Bill, how's the work on the old Plunek mansion going?" He shook his head and said, "Not great. I need a whole crew. Carrie and I try hard, but we can't do it alone, and she's leaving for college soon. It might take years at this rate." I offered, what if I found a crew for flooring and plumbing in the next 2 weeks and another for electrical and framing the following 2 weeks? I can have them ready unless you'd rather not. He looked surprised. I'd love that, but I can't afford it. Don't worry, it won't cost you anything as long as you agree to be a reference if you're happy with their work. Really? Your teams are known for their quality? I'd be happy to. I explained that a young couple I knew wanted to start a custom housing company in our area and jumped at the chance to fix up a house as a model for their business. I told Bill I would pay the workers, and he would just need to buy the materials if he was willing. He agreed, getting a bit sentimental about friendship and good people. I changed the topic to ask if Trisha was coming for the gathering tomorrow. When Bill confirmed she was, I suggested he get the materials organized in the morning so he and Trisha could help us prepare. Before he left, I gave him the contact details for Janet and Jim, urging him to reach out first thing in the morning to schedule everything for next week. Once he was gone, it was just me and Brooklyn. She looked just as pretty in shorts and a t-shirt with wet hair as she had when she stepped out of Bill's truck. I knew I was in real trouble. Every reason I had used before was still true. I was too old. She needed to enjoy her college years. She was still so young, or was she? The change in how she acted and how she looked showed something different. She might be a college freshman, but she was only 19 days from turning 22. That is an age when most girls are seen as women, yet I kept remembering her stacking groceries and looking scared of her mean boss. Had she changed so much in 5 months? Suddenly she stood right in front of me. She took my chin in her hand and turned my face to hers. Quit thinking, she said softly, almost like a breath in my ear. This is meant to be and it is happening tonight. If you feel unhappy tomorrow, I will go home. But I think you want me as much as I want you. I'm going to find out one way or another. The kiss felt even warmer than before. The hug felt tighter. Her body relaxed against mine. I stopped thinking and started feeling. She stepped back for a moment, then moved close again. We held each other and made love. It was gentle and full of care. The first time she trembled a little. She seemed to remember harder times from the past. But my soft touch helped her forget those bad memories. She stayed right there with me in the moment. We moved together slowly and she showed me how much she trusted me. She responded in a way I had never seen before. Her whole body felt alive and happy. When the feelings grew strong, she held me tight and let everything go. I gave her a quiet moment, then we changed places. She took the lead with a smile. It took a little time for us to find our own rhythm, but we did. She tried new ways and we both enjoyed them. She leaned close and we stayed wrapped in each other. I held her with care. Her body felt perfect in my arms. I had only begun to know the special person she offered, and already I knew this was unlike anything before. That left me with a new problem I had never faced. If she is the ideal partner, maybe even the perfect life partner, what should I do? Should she stop going to school? Do I need to move to Washington? What about children? Does she want any? When? Having a little one while I study chemistry doesn't seem great, so do I become a stay-at-home dad? When will she see that she is not just the little girl nobody picked for games, the one who suffered, or the most popular girl in school who didn't have anyone ask her out? When will she realize she deserves so much more than me? A 10 held back by someone like me, who might be a 6 or 7 or an 8 on a good day. I knew my insecurities came from past experiences, and that Brooklyn was a kind person, but those doubts come back when she is with me. Why? Is it because she is so much better than I am? Will she leave to find someone who truly matches her when she goes to college? I don't know, but if she keeps treating me so intimately, I might embarrass myself. We were spending our time together and nothing else mattered but having Brooklyn close. Our Thursday to-do list was full of important tasks, but we slept in until almost 9:30. We would have slept longer if not for the noise of the list being taken care of without us. I wanted to jump up, but she wanted to shower, get dressed, have some coffee and biscuits or something. We're going to get in trouble anyway, so let's enjoy this lovely morning together, she said. And remember that whether we rush or take our time, it will turn out the same. So we had our coffee and biscuits, and then we strolled outside with our arms around each other, only to be greeted with teasing and jokes about our personal lives. I wasn't bothered. My big smile stayed the same, and Brooklyn seemed unbothered too. When Carrie called us to get back to work, we went our separate ways. I turned on some music to create a lively atmosphere, which made Brooklyn want to dance. We worked, moved to the music, and she praised how well everything was going. By around 2:45, we finished our tasks and went to find leftovers for lunch and noticed a sign pointing toward the river. We enjoyed our meal slowly because we both liked sharing bites and exchanging kisses between food. I didn't see chips as a separate meal from our sandwiches, but it was fun to see her so delighted. After cleaning up, I asked if she wanted to swim in the river, and she eagerly replied, "Of course, let's change." That was a playful invitation, and we shared some sweet moments together before heading outside. They teased us again, but we were in such a good mood that it didn't bother us at all. Chase, our dog, was resting in the shade by the water. He raised his head and wagged his tail, but mostly stayed snug where he lay. Brooklyn loved showing affection until Kay finally said, "I'd tell you two to be more private, but then we might not see you again before Sunday. Just keep it a little less obvious so the rest of us can enjoy too." We did try to keep things under control, though Brooklyn was playful whenever I got near. Her giggles would make it clear when she was being mischievous, so soon they were joking about her instead of me. She didn't mind, and later that night I learned why. "They know how much I wanted you, how many times I cried when you were with others, so they can't be surprised that I can't help myself now that we're together. It truly makes me happy to be playfully teased about being your partner." I wasn't ready to share my feelings or how many times I had to push thoughts of her being with other boys out of my mind. It was summer, but I couldn't understand how other boys were letting her have her space. If she had gone to a big school, there would have been a long line of guys hoping to date her. She left here looking lovely but a bit awkward, dressed in regular clothes from stores like Walmart, except for the ones I picked out for her. I really need to meet her roommate. She must have great style. After swimming, we all parted ways, promising to tackle our last-minute projects soon. I asked Brooklyn if she wanted to grab a bite, and she said yes before we settled down for a cozy evening together. An hour later, she was hungry again but didn't want to head into town, so we had breakfast for dinner, waffles with syrup, eggs, and bacon. I made way too much food, but we ate it all, except for a little that Chase snatched after his own meal. Once our food settled, we shared some more relaxed time together, and she told me stories about Seattle and her experiences at the University of Washington. She mentioned how odd it was that she had explored more of Washington in 12 weeks than she had in Texas over 21 years. That night, I got an idea to achieve 3 things all at once. I decided to see how smart it seemed when the sun came up, and what she would think after the homestead gathering. When Friday came, we were so organized that most of our tasks were finished. But from early morning to mid-afternoon, vendors and caterers filled the road, preparing for tomorrow's events. The Horisters began arriving at 5 for a sneak peek. Trish showed up around noon, and she and Bill took some time before coming back ready to handle the last few details, which weren't many. Any remaining tasks couldn't be done until just before the game, so Bill, Trisha, Carrie, Brooklyn, and I showed the visitors around the house, barn, and ranch if they wanted a tour. There was talk about my plans to buy a piece of the old ranch, but I kept saying it wasn't a sure thing, even though some people thought it was. Since they were selling, I shifted my focus to saying I felt honored to join Charlie and Kay in caring for their legacy and asking for advice on what we did right and wrong. We mainly got memories of swings from long ago, a horseshoe pit, and a place where they used to burn trash. Everyone felt a bit sad about giving up the land, but no one wanted to be the caretaker. After a few drinks, the sadness turned into stories about the place and its people, with funny and heroic tales from the past, including the Apache and Cherokee raiders and stories from the Civil War, when the German settlers supported the North. They came here as families to farm and ranch. None of them owned slaves, and they weren't worried about the tariffs that had caused trouble years before. There were indeed some hard feelings between those who backed the Confederacy and those who stayed loyal, but there wasn't much fighting compared to other places. I knew the history, but hearing their first-hand stories, passed down over the years along with old photos, gave it all new meaning. Henry Horister was the first white child born in the county. The layman boy was captured and held for 9 years by the Apache and Comanche tribes, and he came from a nearby area. The Horisters were known for their part in the Mason County Wars, also called the Hoodoo Wars. Even after nearly 150 years, some families still held onto old grudges against families from the other side, and the Horisters were among the most fierce in these feuds. I didn't know these families well, but Carrie and Brooklyn did. For example, in my own family, there are German Macmillans and Scottish Macmillans, and some of them avoid each other even if they share the same last name. This was also true for the Jordans and other families. As I realized how close-knit these families were, I was surprised that no one wanted to repair the old family homestead or the ranches from the original land. There's a saying, The blood grows thinner with each generation. I had enjoyed learning about this history and kept notes, but I wasn't sad when they left at 10. We had a busy evening ahead, and if the volunteers arrived as they promised, things would go more smoothly. Brooklyn was young, but the day had tired her, so we turned in when the parking lot was empty. She lay on her side and pulled me close, and we cuddled tightly. She soon made the gentle purring sound she makes when she falls asleep. I drifted off to that soothing sound and dreamed vividly of many places with her by my side. Despite my worries, Saturday turned out to be a great day. More volunteers joined, and when anything needed to be done, it got taken care of quickly. The last vendors brought ice for the storage freezer they had set up in the shed, along with drinks and watermelons for everyone to enjoy. The festivities were set to start at 6, so at 4, we all dressed in our period costumes. It was rare to see a woman as tall as Brooklyn back then, so Kay had a local seamstress make her dress. She looked adorable in her blue gingham dress, bonnet, and old-fashioned boots. Women's size 10.5 shoes were also hard to find, but they were not very visible. I wasn't sure how pioneer women managed the heat, but I suggested Brooklyn stay inside in the air conditioning as much as she could. She playfully revealed a bit of ankle, and while she couldn't see my reaction in my brown trousers and suspenders, I did feel out of place. I wore a light cotton shirt, a vest with a pocket watch, and heavy boots that made me feel clumsy. With Charlie, I started the event by gathering everyone in the barn and showing pictures of what we found when starting this project on a large TV. I shared funny stories about the creatures that once lived in the barn. When the laughter faded, I introduced Bill, Carrie, Brooklyn, Kay, and Charlie, the ones who did a lot of the hard work. I made sure to mention everyone who helped clear roads and fields, put up fences, and built the storage room and the gate according to our determined women's wishes. I talked about the Horisters who had come by earlier to help us prepare for tonight. I suggested they could guide some tour if Charlie, Kay, Bill, or Carrie were busy. Before handing things over to Charlie, I invited everyone to share their stories through email, paper, or audio recordings. I promised to collect these memories into a living history book for the Chance Public Library, with a copy kept here. Charlie took over and shared what he knew about the old homestead and the land it stood on, mixed with some of his own memories. Some stories made people laugh, while others brought tears. He encouraged more people to share, and soon everyone was telling their stories as they explored the house. Brooklyn kept everyone entertained with funny stories about local animals, like opossums and snakes, and explained how we'd keep them away. I had filled the electronic jukebox with old songs, and playing Appalachian, country, and folk music reminded everyone of their grandparents and great-grandparents, regardless of whether they were Horisters or not. The caterers timed the meal perfectly, ringing the dinner bell just as the last group finished their house tour. It was still light out, but the outside lights would soon come on, lighting up the house, barn, and corral. The meal was lively and cheerful, as if we had been celebrating, but we hadn't had much to drink. Beer and local wines were served, but after 10:30 they stopped serving alcohol. After dinner, the tables were cleared away for the vendor to take, and the chairs would be removed after the dance. The music surprised some who hadn't heard my playlist before, as many didn't know the songs were from such early times. The mix included songs from the 1850s like Camptown Races and Jingle Bells. The 1860s featured Battle Hymn of the Republic, and the 1870s had waltzes, including the Blue Danube. The 1880s introduced America the Beautiful and fun ragtime music. The early 1900s brought in favorites like Shine On, Harvest Moon, and Take Me Out to the Ball Game. I didn't realize Kay and her friends had been preparing, but they arranged for someone to teach the dances, and many joined in, including Brooklyn and me. Women from the community made desserts, wrapping up the evening on a sweet note. Kay invited everyone to enjoy a slice or cup of dessert, thanked them for coming, and reminded them to be careful on the road home, especially with deer and hogs around. As people began to leave, a little line formed with guests thanking me and my partners for organizing such a wonderful event. Charlie put his arm around my shoulder and said, "I know how much effort and money this took, but you and Bill are honorary citizens of Chance after this. You made a lot of friends, and they will talk about this for years." Brooklyn had someone to cuddle with again. We were both too tired to sleep well, but we enjoyed being close together in the morning and then had some fun in the shower before breakfast. Many volunteers came to help clean up at 10. Most left by 1:30, but we wrapped things up before then. I think all three couples had a fun time afterward. Brooklyn and I took a nap, watched a movie, and went to bed early. I was tired, but she playfully encouraged me to join her for a bit more fun before we fell asleep, feeling worn out but happy. On Sunday, I slowly got out of bed to wake Brooklyn up and get ready for church. I checked with Bill and Trisha and Kay and Charlie, but it was just going to be Brooklyn and me. We chose a nearby church and were welcomed warmly as if we had been members for a long time. I recognized many faces from the night before, and those I didn't know introduced themselves before and after the service. The preacher was a retired teacher who had started preaching in her 60s, and by the time we left the lunch gathering after the service, I knew this was going to be my new church home. In the afternoon, we rested until it was time for our swim. Chase decided to go ahead of us, but was a bit sad that no one was there to greet him. We kept him entertained with games, splashing, and chasing him until he finally lay down on the grass in the warm sun and closed his eyes. Brooklyn took this moment to jump in the fun and suggested we play a chase game. After a lively chase, I caught her. I knew she was having a good time, and it made me feel playful too. This playful side wasn't unusual. Many of the girls and women I dated liked to let loose and try new things, which sometimes seemed a bit out of character for them. They often joked about their fun times as being influenced by drinks or other things, but I felt it was just a way to explain their adventurous side. Monday morning was busy with helping vendors pick up their equipment and belongings. After another fun time together, I said, "Honey, we need to talk." She seemed surprised but happily joined me on the couch, giving me a kiss. "I have no idea what you are planning for the break." "Whatever you want to do, darling Danny," she said with excitement. "Let's see how you feel about this." Tomorrow, I'm trading in my RV for a Jeep and a trailer for a road trip. It will last about 2 weeks, but I'll have you back in time for your flight to Seattle. "That sounds great. Where are we going?" she asked. "Not New York City, but we will visit Austin and the University of Texas, Port Aransas, Alpine, Fort Davis, Balmorhea, Marfa, and Big Bend." Wow. I've heard of those places and have an idea where they are. Isn't that a lot of driving? Maybe, but I'll have a new RV to relax in and a new Jeep to explore in, plus I'll have a wonderful companion to share this adventure with. Her excitement was contagious, and she smiled like a child on Christmas. "I'm in. When do we start?" "Tomorrow morning, we will go to Bourne, trade the RV for one with a stronger diesel engine, hook up the trailer, and put the Jeep in it. We are heading to Canyon Lake, then north to Austin. I have a reserved spot in a nice RV park by Lake Austin. I want to show you Austin and the University of Texas, and then we'll go to the beach the next day." Her excitement kept us going through the day and night. I worried I might be too tired for the trade, but she woke up just as eager, which got me excited too. We made it to the dealership on time. I loved my motorhome, but I bought it used 5 years ago, and it was already 5 years old then. There have been many upgrades in the past 10 years. The driver's seat looked fancy, and learning to use everything took me some time. In fact, Brooklyn figured it out before I did and helped me, which made the service manager happy. Once I stopped overthinking and followed instructions, I started to get the hang of it. There are gauges for everything important, and the fuel usage was easy to see. With the big engine, that mattered, but I needed a strong engine to tackle the mountains, especially when pulling a trailer with a Jeep inside. They had me navigate an obstacle course in the back, which included turning, stopping, parking, and backing up with a trailer. It was much easier than my old RV, even though it was longer because it had lots of cameras and sensors, plus automatic features for highways. I had to keep a hand on the wheel, but it drove itself most of the time. After I finished the course successfully, they asked if I had questions. I didn't, so they wished us luck and joked that I should keep my co-pilot up front while I learned. I had no problem with that. She looked great in her outfit and her hair was pulled back neatly. After she visited a store with a spa, I knew she would be the best travel companion. She was scheduled for a session from 2:30 to 5:30, so we hooked up the RV, took the Jeep out, and I drove her to a place across the lake in Westlake. She wasn't sure what to expect, but she was ready for anything. I explored some shops and picked up a few games for our trip, then went to pick her up 45 minutes early. I wasn't surprised when she came out at 5, looking stunning and holding a lot of bags. What stood out to me was her confidence shown in her stance and how she moved. Renee, the assistant who helped her, carried bags, too, filling the back seat. Renee came to my window and said, "We finished early because she is naturally beautiful, and we didn't want to ruin that look. She made everything she tried on look fabulous." Then, with a wink that Brooklyn could hear, she added, I don't know where you found her, but she's a serious upgrade from your last partner. She brings joy and freshness into every room. I guess that explained her confidence. We spent an hour driving around, showing her what makes Austin unique, including the art, the El Arroyo sign, Barton Springs, and some famous barbecue spots nearby. We stopped at Hula Hut to eat and watched the sun set over the lake and hills to the west. She was excited to have a cozy time, but I suggested we go out to 6th Street instead. She disappeared for a moment and came back wearing a nice dress and heeled sandals. I started to have doubts about our earlier plans, but I knew we had to seize the moment, so we headed out. She was amazed by all the bars and the number of college students out and about. I was surprised by how many of those students looked at her, but it didn't bother her. She stayed close to me the whole time, dancing and chatting only with me. I even encouraged her to dance with others when the music changed, but she always said no. As the sun came up, we got back to the RV, and I recalled how my friends and I used to go downtown at this time. It was fun, but not the same way I knew it could be. I bought an expensive coffee maker for the RV, and it was worth every penny. We enjoyed some coffee and breakfast tacos from a nearby stand, then got dressed in the school colors of burnt orange and white before exploring the campus and athletic facilities. I looked good in my white polo shirt with burnt orange details, khaki shorts, and white shoes with orange laces. But her outfit really stood out. She wore athletic shoes, a pleated miniskirt with orange stripes, and an unbuttoned polo shirt. Her cheerful ponytail finished the look and caught a lot of attention. I joked with her, asking if the guys at her old school were as surprised as those at mine. She laughed and said if she had worn purple, they likely would have been. The weather was different there, so the students often wore sweaters or jackets. I advised her to politely decline any invitations to join sororities. She looked like she could easily be asked because of how friendly she was to everyone. I felt a mix of pride and protectiveness, like an older brother. We enjoyed the campus tour and saw the new buildings since my time there. When Brooklyn mentioned her double major in education and psychology, she caught the attention of a couple of girls studying education and one in psychology. The boys were disappointed to learn she was only visiting. When she explained she would be attending school in Washington, they all seemed to lose interest. She charmingly told them that she was with her brother who wanted her to think about transferring next year. Some girls looked interested when Brooklyn said we were headed to Port Aransas, so she enjoyed meeting them and hoped to see them again later. She jokingly asked me if I was trying to convince her to transfer to my school. There was a hint of hopefulness in her tone, too. I explained that I wanted her to see where I went to school and the stadium where I would have reserved seats soon. I mentioned they were quite expensive and invited her to call if she was ever nearby, as I might have an extra ticket. "What about my school?" she asked. "Are you coming to see me?" she asked in a pouty voice. "The Horns have a 6-game trip, and there's no home game in October, so if you want, I can visit you then." "Well, as long as it doesn't mess up your football games, sure, why not?" she replied, her tone showing she was a bit upset. "If you play your cards right on our trip, you might convince me to fly up before then. I hear the weather is nice that month." Suddenly, she jumped into my arms and kissed me on the cheeks and lips, whispering in my ear that she wanted to try a few more places in the RV before we left. I was laughing until I noticed a couple of coaches and players watching and laughing too. We have an audience and some of them are coaches," I said. She gave me one more kiss and then stood on her tiptoes. She glanced over her shoulder, realizing her skirt probably showed her bright orange underwear. Seeing the 4 of them watching, she hid her face in my chest, feeling shy. They kept smiling as they walked over to us. I stepped back a little, looked at them, and said, "Sorry for the public display of affection. I invited her down for a game since I have season tickets this year. She's a Washington fan, but I'm trying to turn her into a Texas fan. I'm defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski, he's offensive line coach Kyle Flood, and these are 2 of our players, linebacker Anthony Hill and quarterback Arch Manning," one of them said. I introduced Brooklyn and myself, and we all shook hands. I noticed my handshake ended quicker than Brooklyn's as she held eye contact longer with the players. If these 2 football stars found her interesting, she must be special since they could pick from so many women here. They asked about my tickets, and I pointed to the north end zone. 16 rows up in section 15, I replied. Pete looked at Coach Flood. They shared a smile, and Flood said, "Let me give you a number to call. We might have better seats available for you if you want an upgrade." I took down the number while Brooklyn chatted with the players. Flood added, Just tell them we gave you this number and we'll see if they can help a good fan and a future fan. Then Coach Sark came out and called them back, so they said goodbye and went inside. Brooklyn didn't know much about Texas football, but she thought they were nice and that the two players were good-looking. But they were so big, I didn't realize how big they were on TV. Sweetie, there are players on that team who could easily lift those two. Arch is 64 and about 230 pounds, and Anthony is around 63 and closer to 240 pounds. The bigger players on the line are about 330 pounds and range from 62 to 66. So picture that size or bigger and weighing about 100 pounds more. I can't even imagine that, she said, her mouth open in surprise. She then looked at me with big, innocent eyes and asked playfully, "This has been fun, but when are we going back to our RV?" We headed back to the RV parking spot. I let her out, loaded the Jeep onto the trailer, secured it with custom chains and clamps, climbed out, and closed the ramp. After washing my hands at the outside station, I entered the motor home and saw Brooklyn resting comfortably on the couch. One leg was on the floor, and the other was resting on the back of the couch. I was focused on her, making sure she felt good to start our journey. Since I felt good after waking up that morning, I let her tidy up the couch while I brought in 4 slides and raised the supports. The captain's chair was big, and once we got on US 183 heading south, she slipped from her seat beside me and made her way onto my chair. She cuddled up and said to wake her when we were close to the ocean, which she had never seen. I noticed a light, pleasant scent that I realized was probably from her shampoo. She rarely used perfume, but her natural smell was so nice there was no need for it. I let her rest for a couple of hours before waking her up. It wasn't the ocean, but I wanted her to see the historic sights in Goliad. This was where many Texas soldiers who had been taken prisoner were killed during the fight for independence. I showed her the mission and fortress, and she shared what she learned from her textbook about the battle. I added some details she didn't know, like how General Sam Houston had sent troops to support those at the Alamo. The leader, James Fannin, only acted when the Mexican army had already defeated other groups and was closing in on Goliad. After 2 days of bombardment, they decided to surrender. They were promised they would return to the United States, and General Urrea asked for mercy for them. But the Mexican leader, Santa Anna, said that those who fought him would be treated as pirates and be killed. While General Urrea went to speak with Santa Anna, Colonel Patilla was left in charge, with orders to keep the prisoners safe. However, Santa Anna sent a message ordering that they be executed. This sad event happened on Palm Sunday when the soldiers were led out under false pretenses to collect firewood. Instead, they were lined up and shot. Those who were too sick or hurt to walk were shot in their beds. After seeing his soldiers killed, James Fannin was blindfolded and tied to a chair. He requested 3 things: to be shot in the body, not the face, for his belongings to be given back to his family, and to have a proper burial. Instead, he was shot in the face and his belongings were taken by others. His body was discarded with the others and burned without a prayer. A few weeks later, at San Jacinto, Mexican soldiers were awakened with cries to remember those at the Alamo and Goliad, and many faced a similar fate as the Texians who had been killed. Santa Anna tried to blend in with his soldiers, but was found and taken to Sam Houston. While many wanted him punished for the things he did, Houston saved him, wanting to use him to negotiate peace. Brooklyn cried several times during my recounting of the tragic events in Goliad and thanked me for helping her understand better. I kept it brief. The Texians had their own mistakes, too. Austin gave up his freedom and nearly his life trying to balance the wishes of the people in Coahuila y Tejas for independence with Santa Anna's ambitions to be a powerful leader. Unfortunately, he did not succeed, and those who thrived on conflict won instead. She was the first to see the tall windmills, and I told her they marked our way to the coast, where the winds blow all day and night. Windmills are a key way to capture energy, but they change the landscape, standing tall across the fields of corn and maize. We took a shortcut through Refugio, passing by Capano Bay and arriving near Rockport. I promised we would come back to shop, but we turned south toward Aransas Pass and the ferries. I had seen rigs like this on the Port Aransas ferries before, but a few feet could mean the difference between being sent to the causeway in Corpus or being loaded onto the ferry. As we got closer, Brooklyn grew more excited. I remembered my own joy from elementary school and saw it in her. She bounced in her seat, pointing and asking if this was the Gulf of Mexico on either side of us. I cherished every moment, enjoying her enthusiasm and answering her questions as quickly as she asked them. She was so thrilled to see a shrimp boat arriving in Arance's Pass, and then even more excited about a big oil platform being renovated along the waterway. She wanted to know everything about the Intercoastal Canal, amazed that it circled the Gulf and went up the east coast. The workers directing traffic noticed me early and guided me to the middle lane of a new line. I pointed to a ferry just leaving and said it would be ours. But Brooklyn was distracted by the ferry leaving full of cars and the one just arriving, unloading. She squeaked when I was moved forward and directed to a center lane. She was nervous and didn't think we would fit. When we finally stopped just a few feet from the front barrier, she watched the crew set things up. She checked the mirror to see if our trailer was on the ferry too and watched cars, trucks, and even large boats pull beside us. When the horn sounded and we moved away from the dock, I climbed out and called her to come with me. She followed, holding onto me tightly to keep her balance as we crossed the wake of an incoming ferry. Then, she gasped with excitement when a group of dolphins jumped right in front of us, playing around as if they had no worries at all. They were safe. They moved too quickly for something as slow as our ferry, but Brooklyn didn't realize that yet. She was thrilled to see the dolphins, but worried the boat would run into them. My reassurances didn't help much until she saw for herself how the dolphins easily swam away from the ferry. At that moment, I knew we would be taking one of the sunset cruises and probably going fishing in the Gulf. This experience was too beautiful and inspiring to keep her on the shore. I got my phone ready and took photos of all the charters available, including the dolphin watching, sunset cruises, and trips to St. Joseph Island. If we were going to spend a week at the beach, we were going to do it right. I turned right onto the main street and drove slowly through the little town. We would come back in the Jeep to get seafood to cook or eat, but I wanted her first look to be something she would always remember. I love this place so much, and one day, I want to have a house or a condo here. If someone does not enjoy the beach life, they probably won't stay with me for long. I should have ended things with Rita when she complained about sand in her sandals. It would have saved me a lot of trouble, but things seemed good with this new girl. She was so happy as we drove along. She could not believe how many golf carts were on the streets and laughed when I told her we had one waiting for us. I drove past the town limits onto Texas 361 and turned left onto the next road. We ended up near a restricted area, but not too far ahead, camping was allowed. I told her that she could choose when to stop and set up. She asked why it was her decision. I explained that she could decide if she wanted to be around other campers or if she wanted more privacy. If she wanted to sunbathe and swim freely, we should keep driving for a bit longer. I don't want a lot of people around, but I'm okay with some. Where did you have in mind? She said. We decided to keep driving a little further. The tide was going out, so I had to watch for high tide markers on the sand, ensuring we parked beyond them so we wouldn't step into the water in the morning. She pointed out the tide markers correctly, and I searched for a safe spot on the beach where we could park near the water with the trailer still attached. I found a good place that wasn't crowded, at least a quarter mile from the nearest RV. I backed in, adjusted the trailer, and turned off the engine. She jumped onto me and exclaimed, "Oh my God, this is the most exciting thing I've ever done. My friends took me to the Pacific Ocean once, but it was cloudy and cold, the shore was rocky, and the water was freezing. This feels like something out of a fun movie." We got out through the passenger door after putting our shoes away and putting on flip-flops to set up. I placed some boards under the trailer supports and lowered them. Then I opened the trailer and took the Jeep out. I don't know about you, but I'm really hungry for seafood, fish, shrimp, crab, and whatever else is on the menu. Are you ready? I asked. She bounced with excitement, so I took that as a yes. I rushed down to the water with a container to collect some seawater. She followed me, dancing in the waves and laughing like a child. I promised we would swim once we finished eating, so I set up a place to wash our feet near the RV door. We took our shoes, rinsed off our feet, and sat in the Jeep to put on our socks and shoes. We drove back to town along the beach, turning only at the jetty. We passed the UT Marine Biology Institute and then the Coast Guard Station. We chose Virginia's on the bay for our first meal and drink, sitting on the edge of the dining area facing the parked boats. We didn't see any owners, but there were workers cleaning and organizing on the first two boats, so they were likely just back from a trip. After a long day of traveling and setting up camp, Brooklyn looked great in her burnt orange and white outfit. She liked a drink called Sex on the Beach that the bartender recommended. The first drink made her laugh, the second made her feel more lively, and the meal relaxed us both, making us want a nap. We had a quick nap for two reasons. Our rented golf cart arrived, and she was eager to swim in the ocean for the first time. I taught her how to swim past the breaking waves and how to ride the waves back to the shore. On the lawn, she showed she was great in the water. Once she understood how the waves worked, she became a pro in no time. I enjoyed watching her, especially since she often had little wardrobe mishaps. But she always handled it well and returned to the water quickly. School was back in session, so there weren't many families around, but there were some fishermen and surfers. Cars and buggies drove up and down the beach, and she had a little crowd enjoying her fun until she noticed all the eyes on her. She quickly came back to me, and we played just outside the bigger waves for a bit, floating like corks when the waves rolled in. She was excited about everything we did, like a really happy kid. I decided we would rent surfboards if the waves were good during our stay, but I knew she needed a one-piece swimsuit. She was so full of energy and focused on having fun that she hardly thought about her clothing. I didn't mind, but I worried about all the pictures online showing a young girl playing in the waves. Those images would stick with me forever. The wind was calming down, and the sun was setting when we got out and walked back to the RV. I set up the awning, took out two lawn chairs, and we sat and talked while the breeze dried us off. Oddly enough, we weren't overly romantic, probably because our conversation was so varied. I asked her about her adventures in Washington, and she opened up as much as I hoped. She and her roommate sometimes went on group outings, but they also explored with other summer students. It seems the University of Washington attracts students from other schools during the summer, so Brooklyn wasn't the only curious girl there. They met some guys at a campus bar and a cafe they liked, but nothing serious came from those encounters. You know, I'm not inexperienced, but it wasn't something I wanted. I did try dating a guy in Seattle. He was my roommate's cousin and about 35. He had a reputation, and I thought I'd learn something I could use to impress you. But he was a big letdown. I was expecting something exciting like the stories girls tell, but it fell flat. And that was before I met you. That was less than I expected. I couldn't believe someone like her didn't have lots of guys wanting to take her out. My first semester, I had much more attention, and I didn't think I was as charming as she was. So, out of two bad experiences and one older guy who didn't impress, I'm the best so far. She caught my tone and replied playfully, "So far, but I have high hopes for the young guy who walked by while I was surfing today, or the older guy who sat on the beach and watched. They seemed interested, so if I flirt a little, maybe I'll find someone better." I laughed and shook my head, suggesting she might have better luck at UT. Arch seemed interested, and he's the star quarterback. "You could be famous as his girlfriend. I think," she said as she stretched like a cat, "that I'll give you one last chance before I reach out to Arch. Come on, show me what you've got." "So Arch gave you his phone number. That's not for you to know, is it? You made it clear that this is a trial for me, so you don't really need to know whose number is in my phone. If we were exclusive, I would share my passcode and let you see, but since I'm just someone you're trying out for a little while, that's not happening. You'll just have to wonder what he shared with me while you were busy talking to the coaches about seats." I knew she was smart, but she seemed so innocent and unsure of herself that it didn't stand out. Working with her, I sometimes noticed moments of clarity, but it was hard to believe how much she had changed in just 12 weeks. Imagine what she will be like in 3 years with a degree. Accelerated was a fitting word, not just in her studies but in other aspects too, like when she looked out the window, watching older couples laughing and chatting. After one of our moments together, she turned to me and said, "Someday I hope to be like them. I want to celebrate my 50th anniversary, being happy in the knowledge that I lived a good life, raised wonderful kids, and will love my partner forever." She spoke with confidence, but I could see some doubt in her eyes, so I answered as if there was a question. "That's exactly what I want too, Brooklyn. You captured it all in that statement. A life well lived, loving children, caring friends, and lasting love. You have great insight and values." "Thank you, Danny, but I'm not just a girl. You say that so you can keep your options open. But if I were your age, would you act differently towards me?" I heard your long, confusing reasons for not responding to my emails and letters. It's all nonsense, and you know it. "Let me ask you this," she said, a hint of frustration in her tone. "How many chances at true love do you think you have in your life? You already found someone you liked once, but it didn't work out. You're still young, but not for long. Do you really think you'll meet better people as you get older? And how old do you want to be when you're coaching your kids, taking them swimming and having adventures across the country? If you have your first son at 31, when he's in Little League, you'll be 41. By the time your daughter is in high school, you'll be 45. When your son graduates, you'll be 49. You could keep looking for a partner for a few more years, and then you'd both be in your 50s when they're in school. Is that what you want? I looked at her, impressed by how maturely she was putting me in my place. I smiled and said, "Point taken. You've really changed my mood. I feel so old now." "That's why you need someone younger to keep you excited for many years to come." She said cheerfully, "Come here, you jokester," I said, grabbing her playfully. We laughed and managed to have a fun time together. Our plan for a seafood feast was put on hold, so we cleaned up enough to head out for hamburgers. The burgers were tasty, the malts were great, and the company was enjoyable. The connection we had at first, which made me nervous, was growing stronger, but I was still unsure about it. Besides the whole idea of going back to school in Washington while I managed my cattle in the hill country, I wondered if I was brave enough to let others handle my businesses while I took the trip I had been thinking about. Not this one. I meant the trip where I would pack what I needed, load up Chase, and explore places I've never been. I thought about visiting parts of the Southeast and the East Coast, like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, and Virginia, to see the colorful leaves change in New England. If I waited too long to plan, I could head west to New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, and then up to Washington to say hello. But honestly, those experiences would be more enjoyable with someone special by my side. I wasn't wealthy enough to stop working completely, but I also didn't want to keep delaying my dreams just for money. My dad worked hard for many years, putting his dreams aside for family life. But then they found out my mom was seriously ill, and shortly after he passed away, just a year before he was supposed to retire. Brooklyn is spot on about some things regarding me, like how much I want a family and how time is passing. I imagined having kids by 26 when I thought Rita and I would be ready, but she never wanted that. Now I'm nearing 30 with no spouse or kids. How did it take me so long to see this? Now I look at this new person in my life and think about whether she would be dishonest with me or not. I see that she comes from a tough background, but she wants what I had growing up and what I still dream of. She is genuinely caring, and since starting college, her confidence is improving quickly. As much as I want this trip to focus on me, I realize I need to think of things that will help her too. Sure, this is her first time seeing the ocean, but now that we're here, what's next? Events, games, historic places, anything could be a chance for her to learn. She once thought a trip to Fredericksburg was exciting, and going to San Angelo for a game felt big. To her, even regional track in Kingsville was something special, and Austin was a huge deal. Yet she's not lacking in knowledge. She's smart and makes friends easily, no matter their background. Now that I've thought about her strengths and weaknesses, realizing she just needs time and new experiences to grow, I wonder what to do next. Earth to Danny, hello. Sorry, I was daydreaming. I hope I was in it. It was all about you, ready to take a ride down the beach and snap some pictures of the moon and waves. I thought, if we end up together, I hope I never stifle her enthusiasm. She jumped in excitement, showering me with kisses, and then challenged me to a race back to the cart as she took off running. I let her win, hoping she would come up with a fun idea for us. We weaved through side streets to the beach and arrived at the pier, then made our way to the RV to grab my camera. Phones are fine for quick photos, but for beautiful scenes or nighttime shots, especially with the nearly full moon and the waves, nothing beats a real camera. I picked up the camera and tripod and put them in the back of my car. I asked if she had seen a place she wanted to remember in pictures. I saw many great spots with her in the center. She let me take some pictures at first, but then she took the camera to include me in the photos. Finally, the ones I loved the most are the ones where we set the camera on a timer and moved back to stand together. In the first shot, we faced the camera with our arms around each other. In the second, we were holding hands, and in the last one, we embraced while looking at the camera. As beautiful as Brooklyn is, the real star of the evening was the moon. It was shining brightly, casting light like a beacon, reflecting on the water and in the calm moments between the waves. I thought the pictures were good enough for a gallery, but that was probably because I was standing there bathed in moonlight with her, the rays sparkling in her hair. The water and sand looked lovely in the moonlight, and the night felt magical. I realized moments like this are rare, at least I hadn't experienced many in my life. I wondered if I should take that chance and tell her how I felt, or just stay quiet and hope she could sense it. As I stood behind her, I wrapped my arms around her while we faced the waves and the moon. "Brooklyn," I said softly, filled with feelings, I think it's time to say what you already know. I love you, and it's a deeper love than I've ever felt before. I didn't even know I could feel this way until now. I don't want to hold you back from your college experiences, but I can't let you leave without telling you how I feel. I couldn't wait any longer. I know, Danny, she replied. Hearing you say it makes me feel whole. The moment I turned around and saw you looking at me, I felt something I didn't recognize before, but it all felt confusing. I was stuck in a tough situation, trying to manage my life and protect myself from bad experiences. You were handsome, older, and seemed to have everything figured out, with a nice truck and the ability to have a great life. I wanted you so much, but I didn't want to be seen as just another girl. Still, I tried to catch your eye, hoping our connection would grow into something real. I could tell you were interested, but you held back, wanting to do what was right. And I understood that. I saw myself as someone who could be with you, but not as someone you would marry. I didn't feel ready for that, but now it feels possible. I know it's about being around the right people and learning what I need to fit into that world. But Danny, I want to be myself when we aren't in those fancy settings. I've been true to myself during this trip, and I hope you can help me learn more about that other world. I really don't want to mess things up for you on important projects. I've never been part of the world of wealthy people before, and it feels exciting yet daunting. And there it was. She wanted to grow, to become more experienced and cultured, and she wanted me to help her. She also wants to be herself, the girl I fell in love with, even in the real world. I couldn't ask for more from a girlfriend or a wife. That's great to hear, Brooklyn, but what did I not hear in all that? She smiled, her eyes warm. I love you, Danny. I've always loved you. I'll love you forever. Is that what you thought was missing, dear? I moved over to the tripod, quickly packed it up, and ran to the buggy. Last one and has to do something nice. She laughed, put the camera on her shoulder, and walked to the cart. Is that my punishment? She asked with a chuckle. After she sat in the passenger seat, she leaned over, playfully pulled at my swim shorts, and I kicked them aside when she told me to. She stood up, took off her shorts, and set them on the back seat with mine. Now your shirt, she said. I acted fast, but she was quicker, and soon I saw her glowing in the moonlight, which made my heart race. As we arrived at the RV, I told her to keep going. I praised her as I enjoyed the moment, and she gladly listened. Afterward, I asked her to sit on the back seat. She giggled, climbed up, and waited playfully, looking stunning in the moonlight. I wanted to impress her, so I tried different fun things to make her smile, and I was successful. No one was around, but I was still careful, knowing she might be heard by others nearby. At one point, she playfully pushed me away, ran inside to freshen up, and reminded me to bring our clothes and the camera. I was still feeling eager when I heard her laughter. She was enjoying herself as I tried to keep the fun going. At one point, she asked to take a break and showered me with kisses. Then she wanted to switch places. She did a fantastic job of making the moment lively, and I joined in with her laughter. When she collapsed beside me, we stayed close, and I was surprised that I was still feeling excited, partly because of how nice it was to be together. But then, she started laughing again. We are so silly, she said between giggles. I know we both have some aches, but this is too much fun. She said if I wanted to continue, I would have to carry her to the bedroom. We needed to bandage our burns first and lay down gently. I carried her inside. We cleaned and bandaged each other. The burns were sore and red. Then we lay down together and made love in a gentle way. Later, I noticed some noises and lights, but I did not pay attention to them. The next morning, she put on her smallest bikini. I wore my shortest shorts. We went for an early walk along the beach to collect seashells. She looked just as pretty as she had the night before. We saw 2 large RVs parked south of us. They had big trucks and even a dune buggy and golf cart. No one was awake yet, so we kept walking. We found many sand dollars, flat shells, and fan-shaped shells in different colors. We also found a few spiral shells she liked. After an hour, her cloth bag was full. We had walked almost 2 miles from the RV and we felt hot and tired. Let us swim on the way back, she said. There is a nice quiet spot about halfway where no one else is around. We jogged back to that place. She reached the water first. I joined her in the shallows. We swam together in the cool waves and held each other close. It felt wonderful after the long, hot walk. We played and relaxed in the water. It was a perfect way to start the day together. She bit my neck as she reached a peak of pleasure, trying to hold back her cries, and that made me let out a scream as I released into her. This caused her to call out, overwhelmed by another wave of joy. Suddenly, a large wave, which I hadn't noticed before, rolled over us, separating us and sending us tumbling into the shallow water. She found her footing in the sand and stood up to catch her breath. I was swept to her feet, propping myself up with my hands, and looked up at her beautiful form, her top slightly askew. "You look amazing, but when you catch your breath, you might want to sit down next to me. There are some folks watching who seem to enjoy seeing you like this," I said. She knew I was right, so instead of acting shy, she bent her knees until she was in the water, flopped down, and adjusted her top. "So, how many people saw that, and do you still have my bottoms?" I asked. "It's hard to say. I counted 11, but there could be more. And yes, I have your bottoms," she replied. I handed them to her, and she put them on as I did the same. We lay back in the water, splashing around playfully. "You know what?" she said with a grin. "I don't care. It was totally worth any embarrassment. They're all just strangers." We both laughed, and we helped each other up as the next wave approached. We let it pass, and I spotted another big wave coming, daring her to ride it to the shore. She cheered and got ready, and we surged along with the wave until we were swept over a sandbar, riding it all the way to the shallow water. Once we reached the shore, I gathered our seashells while she playfully acknowledged the cheers from onlookers. Then we waved and headed toward our RV. 6 men from nearby trailers came to greet us, claiming we owned the beach now and introducing themselves. They were direct in their compliments about Brooklyn's appearance, yet she stood confidently by my side, refusing to show any shyness despite their remarks. She thanked a few of them and even curtsied in a playful way, laughing with me and them. There was no doubt she was stunning, and even from afar her beauty was captivating. I felt a bit concerned because these men seemed eager to distract me from her. They were around my age, maybe a little younger and clearly successful. They had a confident air that suggested they worked in serious fields, but not in areas that create or contribute to society in a meaningful way. I let them talk, and I learned just how boastful they could be. 3 of them worked as junior partners in law firms, 1 sold insurance, and 2 were investment associates. Brooklyn was in her cheerful mode, the one she used to handle people who didn't take hints or who just wouldn't take no for an answer. It reminded me of Muhammad Ali's saying to be quick and clever. She easily moved away from pressure, and if someone didn't get the message, she could push back hard. I didn't think it would come to that with this group, at least not in the morning. Once it got to late afternoon and drinks were involved, things could change. But they were leaving early the next morning to go fishing for king mackerel, a sought-after fish usually found near structures like oil rigs. They had rented a 36-foot boat with a captain who also acted as a guide. They invited Brooklyn and me along. I made up stories about work conflicts, and she said she was busy shopping with friends. Since we couldn't join them, they decided to change their plans and go today instead. We managed to dodge that invitation again, cleaned up, and left town quickly. "Do you want to go to Rockport, Corpus, or find somewhere to eat on the island? Or we could head to St. Joe's where we could enjoy ourselves without being seen," one of them asked. "Is it too late for all that?" "I want to explore, find shells and driftwood, relax in the sun, and swim like that too. I want to eat snacks and drink water, sodas, and maybe some beers later. Can we still do all that starting at 9:30? "I'm not sure. Let's go to one of the docks and ask. They even have pirate cruises." We did ask and ended up going to Rockport for lunch and some shopping. We plan to come back for a romantic cruise that leaves 90 minutes before sunset and returns 90 minutes after. According to the flyer, sandwiches, mixed drinks, and beer would be available. However, when we arrived in Rockport, we found out there were charter fishing options in Capana or Aransas bays that left when we were ready. So we skipped shopping, grabbed 2 burgers, and got on board. I had no idea what catching a king mackerel felt like, but Brooklyn and I had a great time wrestling with redfish. A romantic cruise needs clean clothes and fresh bodies, so our sunburns made us think cold drinks sounded nice. We were pretty relaxed at first, while our captain guide shared interesting information about what we were seeing and what we missed. Brooklyn and I were fascinated by the pelicans, cranes, and egrets, plus sea creatures he brought up in a net to show us. With just 9 couples on board, we all gathered to listen and learn about the sea and the roles of different animals. There were amusing tales, and it reminded us of movie monsters that might emerge from the ocean. It was really fun, delivered with humor by our entertaining guide. We found seats at the front of the boat and chatted with each other and those around us. As dusk settled, the music started playing softly. The moon began its lovely rise over the horizon, sparking gasps and smiles all around. I took lots of pictures with my camera, many of them featuring Brooklyn's lovely face. Even better, a skilled photographer adjusted everything for perfect shots and took plenty of photos of Brooklyn, along with some of us together. From the small preview I could see in the dim light, I planned to enlarge some of these pictures, frame them, and display them proudly. Ian was really talented, but he often joked, "I have great material to work with," referring to Brooklyn. Surprisingly, his wife supported him. She helped with the setup and praised his work. It was a bit unusual for this to happen during a sunset boat ride, but life is often strange. When you think about it, a professional photographer wanting to take pictures of my attractive girlfriend wasn't too odd. She was wearing red shorts, nice flip-flops, and a white blouse with pretty red designs. Her golden hair was flowing in the breeze, making her look like a dream girl for many. But back home, her mother overshadowed her beauty and charm, making it hard for others to see how wonderful she was. Ian used his camera for some shots that were beyond my skills, and we agreed to share the pictures later. He also gave Brooklyn a card, inviting her to call him if she ever wanted to model clothes or swimsuits. His wife assured us that everything would stay appropriate, and she would be there for every photo. On the way back to the RV, Brooklyn laughed at Ian's offer as if it was silly. "Why do you think that?" I asked, wanting to understand why she struggled to see her own worth. She rolled her eyes. "I feel awkward, and no matter how hard I try, I just can't be graceful. Men have always wanted to use my looks, even when I was younger and didn't think much of myself. I want to be the confident woman I was in Seattle, but I feel bare and scared now. I worry you'll leave me any day." "Brooklyn, didn't we promise to love each other just last night?" "I love you and I don't see the things you mentioned," I tried to reassure her. "Now let's get inside, shower, and relax. I'm not going to argue about these things." She smiled a little, and we got ready for bed. She fell asleep quickly while I went to the living room and called a friend who had moved to take a CEO job in Corpus Christi. We made plans to catch up, and then I thought about Brooklyn. It's hard to argue with someone about how they feel about themselves. You can discuss many things, but feelings are personal. What I could do was help her face her worries and give her chances to grow and see herself as others did. I hoped she would start to realize that how she saw herself was different from how others saw her. In the morning, she woke up after a good 9 hours of sleep. I made her coffee and breakfast, then told her to pick out some favorite clothes. She looked confused as I explained my plans. "Are you ready for a little adventure? We're leaving as soon as we're ready." I loaded the golf cart into the trailer and set the alarms on the RV. "We're going shopping until we're done, and then we'll check into a nice hotel in Corpus Christi. We'll have dinner with 2 of my friends, and then we'll try something new together. I'm not sure if this will be fun, but I'm willing to try." If I had known I was shopping with Donna, who knows all about fashion, I might have felt a little anxious. Still, this was Donna's area, and I wanted to keep my hopes up just like they were for Brooklyn, assuming the changes would come quickly. I admired Donna for her strong personality, but I couldn't help but worry about how she would influence my friend Brooklyn. My worries disappeared once we entered the store. They found Brooklyn's favorite assistant, and soon they were busy telling her how wonderful she would look in various outfits. I decided to step in, handing Donna my credit card and saying, "Spend what you need. Let's make sure she's ready for any occasion, social, business, or school." Donna's face lit up just like Brooklyn's did when she entered our penthouse suite a few hours later. Brooklyn looked around in awe as bellhops brought in a mountain of shopping bags and placed them where I pointed. I tipped them and joined Brooklyn on the balcony. "This is amazing, Danny. Look at all the ships in the harbor and the sparkling water." She suddenly turned and playfully nudged me. "And you," giving her a blank check and telling her to buy anything I might need. "Are you out of your mind? She mentioned she knows you well, so you know she loves to shop. I'm returning most of this tomorrow. That was way too much to spend on clothes." "Well, I hope you have outfits for the symphony tonight and the gala tomorrow," I said, trying to take her hand, but she playfully swatted mine away. "I have 2 options for tonight and 3 for tomorrow." I didn't realize there were different types of cocktail dresses for special occasions. I thought one little black dress was all anyone needed. "Then show me your options so I can see the difference." She looked a bit unsure. "Where are your nice suits?" I pointed to a closet, and she opened it to check inside. "Wow, I can't wait to see you in those," she exclaimed, thrilled. "And I can't wait to see you in your new outfits. Come on, model for me." She told me to go into the bedroom and get comfy while I waited. I changed into my shorts and settled on the bed, ready for the show. The door opened, and Brooklyn came in, ready to show off her new clothes. She hopped onto the bed next to me, excited and playful. "Can you wait to see me as I wait to see you?" We took our time to get ready. The concert started at 8, and we had to get there, meet George and Donna, be introduced to their friends, and find our seats. They had season tickets in row F and I bought ours online, in row D right by the aisle. Yes, I paid extra, but this was a special occasion for both of us, so why not make it memorable? I don't usually listen to classical music, but I found it interesting at first and then quite fun. Brooklyn was a top player in her high school band and knows a lot more about music than I do. She was excited from the start, and her enthusiasm probably made me enjoy it more as the evening went on. She clapped a lot and knew when to do it. I just followed her lead. During intermission, we met George, Donna, and their friends, and Brooklyn joined in on the conversation. I spoke with the men who were enjoying bourbon while the women had cocktails. I like a good bourbon and it gives a nice buzz, but since we still had the second half to go, I only had one drink. The second half was even more fun, as they mixed classical and popular music. Like I said, I don't know much about music, but I know what I like, and this was great. I couldn't help but notice Brooklyn's little black dress and stylish heels. They grabbed my attention, and I was curious about her stockings. I hoped for something fancy instead of regular pantyhose because her legs looked amazing, and the guys around her were definitely noticing too. After the final encore, we went to the lobby to meet our group, then rode with George to the club where everyone was gathering. The place was fancy and exclusive, with a classy atmosphere and a five-piece band playing music from the Sinatra era. I'm not a dance expert, but I managed just fine. It turned out Brooklyn didn't know any of the dances, but she picked them up quickly and danced effortlessly. Her dress flowed beautifully when she twirled, which kept her dancing with partner after partner. I danced with several women from our group and talked about our relationship and how we met as I danced. They were all good dancers, and I enjoyed every minute. Every guy there admired Brooklyn, but I didn't see anything inappropriate, and she stayed respectful. My two dances with Donna were mostly her telling me how charming and smart she thought Brooklyn was, and how lucky I was to have her, reminding me not to let her get away. I expected a comment about Brooklyn's outfit, but either Donna was too classy or she was as taken with Brooklyn as everyone else. On the way to the hotel, Brooklyn chatted with Donna and George like they were old friends. I listened and felt pleased to have her as my partner. The night was going really well. We stood on the patio enjoying the cool sea breeze as she shared everything she learned and experienced. Then we went to the parlor, where she recapped what each man said while they danced and talked about their achievements. After that, she shared her thoughts on the women and spent a long time praising Donna, whom she looked up to a lot. Brooklyn is innocent and curious, charming and friendly. It seemed like everyone recognized her sweetness and wanted to look out for her. That was interesting, considering the group. These were people who had done whatever it takes to succeed in this town, yet they were all so kind to her. We had breakfast in the room, swam in the pool, walked around the harbor, and explored downtown. We had lunch at one of the first Whattab burgers. That's right, the national burger of Texas started in Corpus Christi. After a lively afternoon, I took a nap, but we woke up too soon because she had an appointment with Donna. She was back in 2 hours while I worked out in the gym and swam in the pool before showering and getting ready. I answered a few work emails and put on my clothes. It had been some time since I'd been to a fancy event, but I was excited about this one, especially for Brooklyn. A charity gala often involves a lot of socializing and drinking. Guests sit at tables where some are celebrities or have contributed a lot to the cause. There's a lot of praise for the funds raised and awards given to those who helped the most. While I believe it's important to recognize the contributions, I can't help but wonder how much money is spent on the gala itself, and if it really encourages more donations than it costs. I often hear that it helps, but I never see the actual expenses listed. Still, I was very happy to be attending tonight. My date was wearing what looked like a designer dress. She told me the color was moonlight silver. The dress covered one shoulder, leaving the other side bare. It was long, but there was a slit that showed a little of her leg when she walked. Her sparkly silver heels made her walk elegantly, moving smoothly as she stepped. The silver necklace she wore had a blue sapphire pendant, matched perfectly with her bracelet and ring. I started to wonder how much the whole outfit had cost, and it might mean using some of my spending money to cover it, but it felt worth it. With her beautiful makeup and styled hair, she looked even more stunning and sophisticated than usual. She asked for my thoughts on her look and changed poses, waiting for my answer. When I hesitated, she started to seem a little disappointed. But really, I was just surprised. The Brooklyn in front of me was not the same girl I remembered in jeans and a hoodie. This was a breathtaking woman, completely transformed. Once I found my words, I might have gotten a little lost in describing how lovely she was. She smiled, gently placed a finger on my lips, and said, "SHH, I understand. And thank you for everything, your gifts and the way you're looking at me right now. Nothing could express your feelings better. I love you, Danny McMillan." I think I replied in a similar way, but I stepped back to get a better view of her and thought about how perfect she looked. We took the Jeep to George's house in Corpus. When we arrived, I knocked, stepping aside to see how they would react. George opened the door with a friendly greeting, but then he paused, just like I did. He looked at her from head to toe and then focused on her face, neck, and shoulders. "Wow, Brooklyn, you are shining tonight. You certainly outshine the stars." Brooklyn blushed and thanked him warmly. Donna heard George and peeked out from behind him. She quickly came forward and squealed with excitement. "Oh, Brooklyn, I knew it. As soon as I saw that dress, I knew it was perfect for you. Come inside so I can see you better. Now please walk to the table and back. Oh my goodness. Danny, George will need to stay with her tonight. She's going to shine tonight, and she'll attract attention from those who might not have the best intentions, as well as from envious people in the crowd." "But isn't she just lovely?" Donna had a way of seeing things that often turned out to be true, and George and I knew it from past experiences. We exchanged nods, and George quietly warned, "Just don't leave her alone with me. She's more than I can handle." I patted him on the back, and we shared a laugh. He was joking, but I knew he meant it, and I figured other good men might feel the same way. Maybe I should let her stay with Donna for the rest of her visit. I believed she would outshine everyone by the time I picked her up. George had made an effort tonight, using his car and driver, so we made a grand entrance with photos along the way. No one knew who Brooklyn was yet, but I overheard people wondering, "Who is that?" with curiosity in their voices. Once we entered the building, George handed our cards to the announcer, who proudly declared, "May I present Mistress Donna and Master George Cambridge." They walked down the main aisle, clearly well known, and many eyes were on them. After they walked a bit further and turned around, the announcer called out, "May I present Mistress Brooklyn Dyer and Master Daniel McMillan." Those names were only known to our friends from last night, so most people turned to see who we were. There was a brief silence in the crowd before whispers started. Brooklyn and I were almost to George and Donna when a man in a fancy tuxedo stepped in our way. He had a smug smile and an air of entitlement that often comes with new wealth. He was rich, and he probably thought Brooklyn should be with him since she stood out the most. I could see that right away. All Brooklyn saw was a man trying to pull her away from me. She firmly removed his hand from hers and linked her arm through mine, making it clear to everyone around that she wasn't interested. I was curious to see how he would react. To my surprise, instead of getting angry, he smiled and told her he would look for her later and that she should save a dance for him. She didn't respond. Donna leaned in to speak to us over Brooklyn's shoulder. "That's Michael Desmond. He created some popular games and got very rich from them. He's the most dangerous type because he'll do anything to get what he wants. You've caught his attention, so we can't hide you completely, but we can keep him away for most of the evening. He will be with the major donors until the dance starts, and our table is far from the front," she added, "but expect him to come to claim the dance he wants." "I don't want to dance with him, I don't want his money, and I want nothing to do with him. Please keep him away from me, he makes me uncomfortable." I put my arm around her protectively and gave Donna and George a serious look. "We understand, but he is an important donor, and this is an organization we support, so let's keep it low-key," Donna urged. "George, is your car ready if we need to leave?" "Yes, the driver is on duty and the car is parked nearby. The valets can call him if needed." "Good. As long as he treats Brooklyn with respect and doesn't bother her, everything will be fine. But if he does, I'll deal with him," I said firmly. They nodded and George replied, "Let's go this way. There are several people I want you to meet." The people he wanted me to talk to were sitting near the front, but not too close. George let me know that the dancing would happen in another ballroom that would open after the ceremonies. "Judge Landon Kennesaw, Judge Rudolfo Rodriguez, I'd like to introduce you to my friends Brooklyn Dyer and Daniel McMillan. They're visiting from Hill Country, which is a beautiful place known as Chance County." The judges turned to us when George started speaking, giving them time to notice Brooklyn before they had to respond. She wasn't the first attractive woman they had met, so they were polite, maybe a little too attentive. For her part, Brooklyn acknowledged their presence and thanked them for their kind words, quickly changing the subject to their work and responsibilities. I stood quietly, waiting for someone to speak to me. Then, Donna hurried over, greeted everyone, and took Brooklyn to meet her friend, who was in charge of the event. As soon as they left, George lowered his voice and continued, "This is Brooklyn's first gala. She comes from Chance, a small town with about 4,000 people. They don't have galas there, and she's thrilled to be here, but she doesn't know too many people in this kind of setting. Naturally, Michael Desmond noticed her, but he was too forward when they were introduced, which upset her escort, my friend Danny. George then described Danny as a successful businessman in construction, mostly in North Texas, but he has also grown his work in Hill Country. He's quite cultured, but he also looks out for Brooklyn. It would be wise for Desmond to treat her well if he wants to stay out of trouble. The judges listened, and Kennesaw asked, "Did you know he brought his bodyguard, the big guy in the dark suit in the back?" I nodded. "I saw him as soon as we entered. I might not win in a fair fight, but I don't play fair. As long as Desmond treats my girlfriend respectfully, everything will be fine. However, we understand," Kennesaw said. "The police chief, sheriff, and a Texas Ranger are here too, so we can keep an eye on things. Maybe we can prevent any issues or at least witness anything that happens, so try to give him a warning first." Rodriguez was standing back with a smile on his face. "I might be a little slow these days, Danny. It took hearing construction and Chance together for me to recognize you. I know who you are. My cousin works for one of your crews and was helping to restore some buildings on the ranch you bought when some troublemakers tried to create issues for one of your friends. I assume that friend is the lovely Brooklyn." I nodded, and he went on. "From what I hear, they were looking for her and came armed. Luckily for them, they ran into some locals who were prepared, and things did not go well for them. At least that's what my cousin said." "Your cousin is Ant, right? I gave him that nickname. It has nothing to do with his real name, Antonio. We worked together on several projects when my company started." I told the crew I understood how the Maya built pyramids without machinery because Antonio was like an ant. He could lift many times his own weight. Since then, he's been known as Ant, and he's one of my best workers. Now that we sorted out his immigration status, he leads his own team, and they are some of the best workers we have. Rodriguez shook my hand again, this time with genuine warmth, and quietly asked, "How are things with Daddy Warbucks now? I heard some troubling things." "I'm here, he's in Oklahoma. As long as he and his associates stay in another state, we have no issues. And if his associates come to Texas, they, along with Daddy Warbucks, will regret it. He's upset with me because of his marriage and other matters. If you live in a glass house, it's best not to throw stones." This made everyone laugh heartily, and we shared warm handshakes before George and Landon were called away by one of the elegantly dressed hosts. "Your reputation speaks for itself, my friend. Want to share the story about your companion?" "I do, so you'll understand why Brooklyn deserves respect." And I shared the whole story, starting from a difficult event in her early teens. His eyes shone with sympathy and understanding, and I could sense he would support me fiercely when it came to Brooklyn's safety. Once I finished speaking, I looked for her. She was with Donna, Agnes, the host I met earlier, and Desmond. I felt a bit uneasy, but their body language seemed guarded yet not alarming. I turned back to Ruddy and said, "Maybe I'm being too cautious. Perhaps he's just trying to charm her." "Perhaps, but keep an eye on her drinks. Make sure she only drinks what the bartender or server gives her. Desmond has faced claims about similar situations where women felt they couldn't refuse." "Isn't it illegal in Texas to give someone a drug without their knowledge?" I asked, suggesting it should be treated as a serious issue. "Yes, but he seems to have good connections with the police chief and others," Ruddy explained. "And then he moved to Corpus Christi. Does he have the same connections here?" "I don't think so, but nobody's tested that yet, and he spent a lot on the last elections." I glanced over to see Desmond's approach again and quietly asked, "How deep is the Gulf?" "Over 5,300 feet, 50 miles out. The Sigsbee Deep is 15,000 feet deep if you really want to be sure." "Thanks." Ruddy gave my shoulder a final clasp. I made my way to the bar as he returned to his admirers, including his lovely wife. A good person, just like Ant. I positioned myself so I could keep an eye on Desmond and Brooklyn. Even from across the room, it was clear where Desmond was focusing his attention. She wasn't falling for it yet, but he was putting in a solid effort. Donna was nearby, giving Brooklyn space and letting her handle a wealthy suitor. It would be good practice for her, assuming he didn't succeed, because offers like this would keep coming for many years. Maybe if I cut off all her curls and had her avoid fancy clothes. No, that would not work. They would still be around. Besides, if she is going to be with me, she has to learn to navigate rich and everyday fellows alike. That is part of growing up and moving on from her past. The hosts were trying to seat everyone without making an announcement that might seem disrespectful to their donors. I didn't mind. I take direction well. but I kept a close watch on my date as I moved toward our table, where George had already sat down. Donna was encouraging Brooklyn to go, but Desmond was making his case for her to sit with him. She shook her head and said something to him, then turned to look for me. I walked toward the table until he grabbed her arm and said something that upset her. I quickly headed toward him, aware of his smirk. Brooklyn pulled her arm away and walked briskly to our table, her cheeks flushed. When she arrived, I asked, "What was that about?" They both said at the same time, "Nothing to worry about." I guess they had rehearsed that on the way over, but I decided not to push it. Changing the topic, I asked who she had met. Her face lit up as she named several men and women and shared what made them special. George asked if she had met Agnes and Dee, two of the dedicated volunteers. She excitedly replied yes and mentioned that their husbands were George's CFO and CIO. She said she hoped to meet them too, and then the MC took the mic to start welcoming everyone. After thanking all the donors, he acknowledged the silver, gold, and platinum-level donors. Amid the applause for their generosity, a big donor took the spotlight, Michael Desmond. He stood and soaked in the attention as he approached the mic. His self-centered speech likely annoyed many, including me, because the applause was quieter this time. I wished someone would confront him, but not me, not here. Three of the hosts, Joni, Agnes, and Dee, kept him on stage after he finally stopped talking to present him with a nice wristwatch, engraved with the charity's name and a message of thanks. He replaced a $10,000 watch with another, and everyone clapped again. I wondered how much good that money could have done for the women and children the charity supported, and why someone so wealthy needed a fancy watch to feel important. The meal was good. Brooklyn and I had chosen prime rib when asked, avoiding the expected rubber chicken. Donna insisted I try her char-grilled chicken, which was surprisingly tasty, but not as good as the prime rib. As the busboys began clearing the main course for dessert, we had choices of chocolate cake, pecan pie, or a French pastry. Brooklyn and I shared pieces of my cake and her pie, both of which were enjoyable. It had been a nice meal, but as the curtains started to rise, I felt uneasy. We all moved together to the ballroom, which had plenty of larger tables for bigger groups. We drew a crowd, mostly George and Donna's friends, plus a few eager to meet new faces. I won't say they looked down on us, but a construction company owner isn't a professional, nor is a student. While we weren't part of their elite circle, we were at least interesting enough to flirt with. I chatted to fend them off, but Brooklyn soon lost patience. She spotted Dee, mumbled an excuse, and quickly left our table. The guys were disappointed, thinking she might be interested in them, but the women were glad she was gone and started flirting with each other's husbands and me. I excused myself to visit the restroom and stopped by the bar for a drink, scanning the crowd as I did. George, Donna, and Brooklyn had found a new table with a slightly older group and waved to let me know where they were. Before the busy bartender reached me, I noticed George take my girlfriend to the dance floor. Donna was also there, being led by a tall man with a bit of silver in his dark hair. I was heading to our table with drinks when the song ended, and I saw Donna and Brooklyn switch dance partners. I introduced myself to everyone and took an empty chair. We were using first names only, with lots of laughter and friendly teasing. This felt nice. When a slow song began, the four dancers continued on the floor. A platinum blonde near my chair stood up and walked over to sit next to me. "If my date and yours are going to hit it off, I'd be happy to be your backup," she said playfully. I looked at her more closely and responded, "You're definitely not a backup. What's your name again?" "I'm Lynette, but I go by Lynn. And you're Danny from near Fredericksburg, right?" "Correct." "I live just outside Chance, not far from the wine country. We have a bunch of wineries too if you're ever looking for something new. They say our soil and climate are perfect for certain grapes, but I'm definitely not a wine expert. We also have a craft brewery and I know quite a bit about it if you're interested." She laughed. "You're funny and charming. I like you. Want to dance?" I agreed, and we passed Brooklyn and the tall man on our way. I noticed a look of jealousy from Brooklyn, but she started this. As good-looking as her guy was, this blonde girl matched him and seemed to have her own plans. If her boyfriend and my girlfriend were watching, she sure put on a show. She was a great dancer, easily matching my movements as we spun and twirled. As I started to feel a bit excited, she added a playful wiggle that made me feel even more so. Then she leaned in close and whispered, "You're something special. I like that. We'll have fun as long as they're having fun, but if not, I'll share my number. I already have yours." When the song ended, she playfully squeezed my arm and said, "Stay close so it doesn't show too much," with a giggle as she turned away. I sat back down next to Brooklyn and asked, "Did you enjoy dancing with Tall and Handsome?" "Yes, Travis dances really well. Did you enjoy dancing with Lynn?" She replied with a hint of frost. I stayed relaxed. "Yes, she's a great dancer, too." "Follows my lead easily," she scoffed. "Yeah, because she was stuck to you. And you and Travis weren't?" I countered. Silence fell, indicating we should drop that subject. It wasn't because I was wrong, but because Brooklyn didn't want to talk about what she and Travis were doing. She seemed more upset about Lynn and me dancing closely. I knew I'd have to deal with these feelings for a while until things changed. Brooklyn noticed the younger guys at the other table, which bothered her. But the attention from Travis, a handsome older man, was different. Did he really find her attractive? He was next to a beautiful blonde, yet he had chosen to dance with Brooklyn instead. He was strong and confident, guiding her in a way that made her feel special. He was a smooth dancer, whispering sweet things to her and knowing when to hold her closely. Travis was charming and wealthy, showing interest in her, a girl from a small town. That made her feel butterflies in her stomach. She didn't want to hurt Danny or make him jealous. This was about her feeling good about herself. After being turned down by some guys she liked, having two attractive men interested in her made her heart race. I understood a bit about how she felt, even if she didn't completely see it herself. She was a little guilty, but also excited by the attention she was receiving, which reminded her of Danny, but her feelings were mixed. "Are you going to dance with him again?" I asked, wanting to nudge her thoughts a bit. "He hasn't asked yet," she answered. "If he does, maybe." Then with a playful tone, she asked, "Why, do you want to dance with Lynn?" I explained. "She says if you two are good, then she and I will be too. If you're misbehaving, then she and I will misbehave." I saw a flicker of jealousy in her eyes as the words sank in. "We weren't being bad," she said, sounding unsure. "Weren't you?" I replied. "Then I guess we weren't either." She looked away for a moment, then turned to me and said, "Let's just dance with each other from now on." I simply said, "Okay," but inside I was really happy. That night had gone amazingly well. She had fun flirting with an attractive older man, tested the waters a bit, and enjoyed the attention. She also realized there were other beautiful women who saw me in a good light too. After the excitement, she felt a little jealousy and guilt, but also happiness that at least one man found her appealing, even suggesting something more. But she wondered, what if she lost Danny because of a silly mistake? Now she understood that if she dressed nicely like the other women, flirted a little but kept it appropriate for the group, she could hold her own. She could stand tall beside Danny and make him proud instead of feeling embarrassed. She loved that feeling. From what I've seen, both women and men, especially those who haven't had much experience, need to learn how to navigate situations that come their way. Even those who are just a little attractive have to try things out, and it was important for her to learn. About 10 minutes later, she got a chance to put her skills to the test when Desmond came over. He talked to her and then to me, directly asking if he could dance with her. I politely said it was up to her, and she turned him down, saying we had agreed to dance only with each other. He took it badly, getting angry with me, thinking I was trying to protect her out of fear that he would take her away. As he got louder, it looked like he might cause a scene, but then his bodyguard calmly stepped in and whispered something to him. He said, "Look around. There are judges and law enforcement officers and important business people here. If you send me after him and he takes me, he will make things very difficult for you. He will have a lot of people who saw that you started it. They will say he acted within his rights in the legal case, and also that you spoke badly of him in the civil case against you. Even if I win, which is not certain, he could have a strong case against you for a lot of money. So turn to me, smile, and let's just walk away. Nothing good will come from this, so it's better to cut your losses now." His bodyguard seemed to also be his lawyer, as he sounded like one giving advice. I thought about trying to annoy him enough to ignore that advice, but I wanted to stay mature. I don't usually deal in that area, but this is Texas and news travels fast. Desmond sighed, but then forced a smile at me in Brooklyn. He turned to his bodyguard and quietly said something about leaving us behind, but I couldn't catch it. If that other person, whoever she was, hadn't laughed at him, it might not have been so embarrassing. But when the laughter began to spread, everyone knew he wouldn't want to support this situation in the future. Desmond was clever with games, but socially he acted entitled and rarely knew when to stop talking. Mostly, though, he was a coward, and his bodyguard made it clear what would happen if I won, which was very likely. For once, he made a smart choice, apologizing and backing away as if he was scared. but just a few steps away, he had to say something, and that laughter would stay with him for a long time. We returned to the limo with our hosts, thanked them, and I asked them to visit me at the Llano River before it got too cold for swimming. They promised to think about it, and then we went our separate ways. Our neighbors had a bonfire and a pit, a stack of wood from somewhere, a couple of coolers that were clearly full of drinks, and some classic rock music playing at a pleasant volume. It might be hard to sleep, but we could always join them for a drink. Despite what they did for work, they were not as annoying as the crowd we had just left. As Brooklyn and I had jokingly guessed, they insisted that we change our clothes and join them, even though they admitted Brooklyn looked great as she was. We changed. She kept it casual, so even in loose pants and a light hoodie, she still looked nice, and we walked over. The drinks were cold, and the talk was easy since everyone had already relaxed. The sandy beach, gentle waves, and bright moon added to the sweet setting. Brooklyn felt at ease, sharing that in high school, they used to meet up on the beach, play music, and sing around a fire under the moonlight. Feeling relaxed, she joined the conversations, joking and being playful without worrying about anything. This made her feel like she fit right in with the group, and she loved it. They grumbled a bit when we said it was time for bed, but they quickly changed their tone when I told them we would be leaving the next day. Suddenly, it was all hugs and goodbyes with promises to meet again and sharing contact information. Once we were inside, Brooklyn asked, "That surprised me. Where are we headed?" I replied, "West, young lady, we're going west." "How far west?" She teased back, "Have you heard of the Big Bend, places like Alpine, Marfa, Fort Davis, and the Chisos Basin?" I asked. "Seriously," she exclaimed. "I've always wanted to go but just never had the chance. I'm so excited." She had already taken off her pants and hoodie when I surprised her with that. She quickly placed her clothes on the floor, pulled the covers down, and lay back comfortably. "Turn off the lights and come to bed," she told me. I was naked too by then. I joined her in bed but kept the lights on because I wanted to see her beauty and feel it. She stretched her arms out and opened her legs. I crawled closer, sharing gentle kisses and touches, making sure to enjoy the moment. She softly asked me to come closer, and I took my time. We shared laughter and light-hearted moments. The warmth between us was electric. Our friends by the fire pit cheered us on, and we both enjoyed the attention, playful in our connection. Afterward, I got up early and made a trip to the store for more milk, donuts, and snacks. I parked the Jeep in the trailer and waited for the pickup. As I walked toward the motorhome, I heard someone say, "You are one lucky guy. How do you find someone as amazing as her?" I turned and checked to make sure he wasn't joking too much. I smiled and replied, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, she's lovely, but it's not just about looks." We exchanged goodbyes, and I made my way inside the motorhome, where I was met by a cheerful girl wearing a playful outfit. I whistled, and she smiled, ready to prepare breakfast. "Sit down, my dear. I have everything ready, and your coffee is fresh. What did you bring for us to eat this morning?" "I brought some things from the store for us to enjoy. Is it good enough for you?" It was, and she happily settled in my lap, claiming it was because we were glad to see each other again. After having breakfast, we made our way back to San Antonio, stocked up at the grocery store, and then headed to Junction for a break. We stopped for a tasty meal at a barbecue place nearby, enjoying some delicious food together. "Where are you headed?" the owner asked. "To Alpine and the Big Bend," I answered. He glanced at his watch and then back at us. "You might want to stay the night here and finish the trip tomorrow. We have a nice campsite by the river, and you can swim before it gets dark. There are plenty of overnight campsites on the way to Balmorhea, Alpine, or Fort Davis." Brooklyn liked the idea, and I agreed that a break sounded great, especially with a swim in the cool waters nearby. Just east, the north and south branches of the river meet to form the Llano, which flows through my ranch on its way to the Colorado River at Lake LBJ. He gave us directions, we paid, hooked up the trailer, and set up camp. With fresh water available, I loaded some clothes from the beach into my washer. Once cleaned up, we put our swimsuits on and headed to the designated swimming area in the river. It even had a safe rope swing. We spent some time in the water with families and made friends with kids aged 3 to 15. Brooklyn naturally drew them to her, like a leader, and I was happy to tag along. I found myself holding and telling stories to more kids than ever before. As evening approached, I shared a few ghost stories from the Old West, including tales of lost mines and soldiers guarding treasures. With excitement in my voice and some playful gestures, I kept them engaged. All the kids, a couple of moms, Brooklyn, and I were sitting in the shallow water upstream from the swimming hole. I noticed some parents watching from the bank, enjoying our storytelling. I tried to balance sharing history with keeping it interesting without being too scary. I concluded with tales about frontier forts and the heroic Buffalo soldiers who were given their name by an Apache chief. As darkness and mosquitoes set in, families drifted back to their trailers, leaving Brooklyn and me in the calm water. We were having fun until a harmless water snake swam by, and Brooklyn quickly jumped out of the water, wrapping a towel around herself. I assured her it was not dangerous, but she insisted on getting out. We walked back together, showered with a thorough washing, brushed our teeth, and went to bed. I expected a different kind of evening, but Brooklyn said, "Hold me, Danny, I'm cozy and ready to sleep." After cuddling closely, she said softly, "I just love kids. I can't wait to be a teacher and a mommy." Then she asked, "Do you want to have children, Danny?" We had talked about this before, and I knew I should answer honestly. "I do. I'm not sure how many, but a sweet little girl like you and a lively boy would be a good start." I didn't think she could get closer, but she found a way. I also didn't think I could fall asleep holding her like that, but somehow I did. I sensed that this night was meaningful for us, and that the next 8 days of our journey would be important. I fell asleep with Brooklyn in my arms, snug and content, listening to her soft sighs.